Ages ago, the moon goddess created the beast, and then she created those strong enough to control it. They became the Lycans.
I was one of them. A warrior of the Blackrain Pack.
We were born to fight. Our destinies are written in blood. The warrior for...
Chapter 1. Ages ago, the moon goddess created man, then she made the beast, and combined them. The moon goddess watched over her children and soon found that evil resided within many of their hearts. The beast was too much. The beast often overpowered man, and with that came the creation of rogues. That was what the goddess had named them, beast more than man. The goddess cried to her lover, Apollo, to fix her mistake, to kill her creations, but he did not. Instead, Apollo sent the will of fire into the hearts of the untamed, and so the hidden pack of Blackrain was created. Those from the hidden pack were men who could overpower their beasts, men created to protect those who could not defend themselves. Henry Power was the first to achieve this. Though Henry was more beast than man, he still held control over his beast. His features and larger frame seemed to intimidate others. It was on the night of his first shift that the moon goddess named this new species a Lycan. This beast was different from others. He had control, his strength greater, his height surpassing any beast he came in contact with. His form radiated power. From that moment forward, Henry Power became known as the father of Lycans, the man who later created the Power Pack, the royal pack in which every pack feared. Well, all except one. But that pack no longer existed. My Alpha had told me this story many times as a child. The day he found me in the woods, bruises covering my form, my body thin, and my skin cracked and bloody. He told me that I was special, like Henry, that all the strong wolves found their way towards the hidden pack. He said it was Apollo who chose my destiny at birth. Of course, I was no Lycan royal, but warriors of the Blackrain Pack were a myth to the werewolf world. We were the stories parents told their children when they were afraid to sleep. We were all guided here to train, to become stronger, to protect our own against those who were not strong enough to fight their inner beast. Alex, pay attention. Ben yells to my left, I have $20 on you. I smirked at the red-haired boy. He had kind eyes, the kind you would never expect to see so much horror. He had a boyish smile to match that innocent look he wore so well, and yet, he was the furthest from it. My attention goes back to the rogue. Sweat drips from the side of his forehead as his arm wavers, not wanting to lose our little game. It was simple. Pin my arm down, and he was free. But if I pinned him down, he'd rot in the cellar until we were bored and wanted to try new interrogation tricks on him. Though we all knew how this would end, no one ever beat me in an arm wrestling match. Soon, the splinters of wood sprayed at us as my men cheered and laughed, seeing the distraught face of the unknown wolf. Many were smart enough not to try to dig into the secret of the Blackrain Pack, but he was stupid. A fool, really. The fight at Gold Moon Pack was long and tedious, a brutal battle that left many dead. The Gold Moon Pack was a lower-ranking pack in the south, a pack known for its kindness. They were a pack that kept to themselves and never bothered others. Being a part of the Blackrain Pack meant that it was our duty to help other packs against rogues. They sent a letter to the council on the issue of rogues growing closer to their border, but by the time we arrived, rogues had already infiltrated their pack. Though most members were farmers and blacksmiths, they fought bravely before our arrival. Our duty to help our people was something Apollo had taught us. It was our whole reason for our existence. Unfortunately, as we left, a rogue followed us back to our pack. We had known all along he had been tailing us, but now and then our pack relished in a new training dummy. I never questioned it. I was the only female within the pack, and even I knew my limits. He moved solemnly towards the cells where two of our men guided him. Now that playtime was over, I moved to my post and began checking in with everyone on patrol. Everything seemed to be running smoothly as every wolf on patrol sent me a nod and continued to keep watch. It had taken me a while to earn my peers' respect. Before I had come along, the Blackrain Pack only held males. Samadraka, our alpha, declared that Apollo chose my destiny to end up here, The small crescent between my brows further proved it. It was a symbol. It showed that this was my rightful place. This was where I had to be, because the goddess and her lover had said so. Though many questioned its truth, a girl appeared in the woods. Some still question it to this day. It was a lonely life before I had joined. Life at the Blackrain Pack was simple. We wake up, we train, we help others, we sleep. It all sounded so simple, for easy steps, and once bone and struggle are left, we rest with the gods above. Of course, none of us knew if that was true, but it's what Elder Eric had always told us. The elders of the council always told us of our worth, of our cause, the reason we live and fight for our kind. Against our kind. Some days, I wondered what my life would be like. Suppose I were the girl with the happy family, the girl who would find her mate at 16 and run off into the sunset. I wanted it some days. I tried to find my mate, to find someone to care for me, to have a big family that cares for each other. Even on my happiest days, my worst days seemed to cloud my mind. The pack hall now. My feet stop at the command and move accordingly towards my new destination. Blurs of brown and red furs Rushford past me as I near the pack hall. It was his tone that had everyone looking to each other as we entered the hall. As I stepped in, I could feel the air tense. Even the Gamma would not spare me a glance. I moved quickly to my designated spot, my hands moving into my pockets as I watched the Alpha move in front of us. He cleared his throat. I am afraid that our sources were correct. The room grew tense at his words. The council has informed me that the threat of the rogues has grown increasingly in the north. He pauses momentarily, taking in our expressions. As you all know, we have always been in a battle against rogues, but the council fears they are getting stronger. They have created a pack of their own. The leader is unknown and is considered to be a level 4 threat. My body stilled. At the beginning of training, we were taught how to handle every situation, whether it be rogues, witches, vampires, or whatever the gods created. We were taught different methods, different levels of possible conflict. We had been to level 3 before, in the fight against the Warzone pack, but that was before my time. I shiver at the name. A level 4 meant that this threat would have to be neutralized immediately, though many of our own will likely die. Settle down. The murmurs in the room turned to hushed whispers. The council and I have decided that our best decision is to head north. The voices of our pack began filling the room again. Alpha Rushford will be giving us shelter. I expect everyone to be ready by dawn. Chapter 2. Alpha Rushford was notorious in our world. He is known as the Alpha of the North, a man renowned for his tactical, cunning, and deadly skills. He was also one of the 5 Kage. The story goes that Athena sent the Kage down. She created the 5 Kage of War: Rushford, Alpha of War; Creed, Alpha of Beasts; Arian, Alpha of Battle; Amara, Commander of the Dead; and Violet, Queen of the Damned. It was a prophecy passed down through generations. A seer had named them all and claimed that one day all 5 Kage would need to unite to win our second war. Most called her crazed and confused, even claimed that seers didn't exist. They called her a witch and killed her. Decades later, Alpha Rushford was born. A man knowing the way of war, a man with a heart of stone, but an excellent fighter. When Alpha Rushford rose to power at the young age of 17, the truth could no longer be denied. The 5 Kage were real, and only one has been found. Some speculate that his name and power were a mere coincidence. If he's a Kage, where are the others? Though some remain skeptical, the royal family was not. They believed the prophecy. They felt another war would come, and they thought that Alpha Rushford would be the one to stop it. It has been many decades since a seer was born, some claiming that because of our harsh treatment towards Della, the goddess would not grant us another. We were ungrateful, and for that, we should be punished. Though if a seer were to be born now, it would be different. Guards would surround them, they'd have the protection of the royal family, and all wolves would fall to their feet. A seer was rare, and was now said to be a child of the moon goddess. My feet dragged my body towards the black SUV, not wanting to be awake at such an early hour, but the ride would be long, and Alpha Rushford is awaiting our arrival. Loading our things into the cars was the easy part. The hard part was trying to keep still during our 10-hour ride to the Mountain Ash Pack. I sat in the front with Alpha Samadraka in the driver's seat, and the boys behind us. My feet tapped against the rubber mat of the car, following the beat of the music playing from the radio. The song was low but loud enough to keep me entertained, though the chatter of my pack mates drowned out the 80s rock Alpha Samadraka put on. "Yeah, right. One look at you, and they're gonna be running for the hills," Ben laughed as Ethan continued. "Come on." He practically jumped out of his seat. "You think the ladies will be able to resist all of this?" He gestured to his stomach. "Six-pack, baby." My eyes rolled. "A lot of fighters have six-packs, Ethan." He ignored me. "Bam." He gestured towards his biceps. "You think they got men with these?" I rolled my eyes again, choosing to keep quiet this time. Even though Ethan had a colossal ego, he was a beautiful man. He was built like one of those Greek gods, chiseled and almost too perfect, with hair like honey. They continued to talk about others as the hours passed. Most of the men in my pack would go to bars and have relationships with any wolf crossing their path. Many she-wolves would willingly approach a powerful male. It is something wired within us to recognize who wields power and want to form a bond with them. However, many choose to wait for their mates rather than give in to temptation. Mates were a common occurrence. Most found theirs before the age of 20, some had to travel to see them, and some packs even held mating balls in hopes of helping their people find their mates. But it was not common for us. Our job was to protect our kind and be willing to die to protect another wolf. A mate would make that difficult. We were meant to be disposable. That's why we were created. We all accepted that fact at a young age. Chapter 3. It wasn't difficult to see where the pack's name originated from. Ash covered the mountain as our car drove higher and higher. It was eerily beautiful how the black covered the grass. The ash was constantly falling. For what reason? I haven't a clue. No one does, really. Mountain Ash claimed to be the highest-ranking pack in the country. I assume it is because Alpha Rushford is a Kage. Wolves ran at our sides, moving swiftly through the trees, never taking their eyes off our cars. It was quiet as our vehicles came to a stop. Pack members stood around us, staring but never saying anything. They stood firm, faces unmoving, bodies still, eyes focusing on our forms. I felt as if I were being observed, and a prickling sensation ran through my body at the thought. A wave of anxiety slowly seeped in. I had expected more attention towards our men, though all I continued to see were squinted eyes and furrowing brows. It seems my first assumption was wrong. I could only guess how many of my assumptions are true. Only time could tell, I suppose. I blended into our crowd of men, not wanting to be seen yet. I had been in Blackrain for many years, yet everyone assumed I wasn't a warrior. Most thought I was a maid or a pack caretaker, as Alpha Featherstone once said, though I suppose that was better than being known simply for my gender. Alpha Aaron of the Exodus pack claimed that a woman is worth nothing more than her body. My Alpha wasn't too happy about that one. All of their assumptions stemmed from the fact that a woman was too weak to hold her own in a pack designed explicitly for warriors. It was only 50 years ago that women were allowed to fight. The Power Pack made that ruling after much protest. After that, it was up to the packs whether or not to make those changes. Some packs today still do not allow women to train, others allow women to train from a young age. It was left to the pack's alpha to decide. Either way, many males held outdated views. A female wolf approached us, head down, nodding at us to follow her. I felt my skin crawl as I watched this petite girl shy away from us, her arms thin, and it took me back to another life. I shake the thought away and follow the girl into the building and up the stairs. She spoke softly as she explained where we would sleep, then where the rest would stay. Alpha Samadraka, Joshua, and I followed the girl to the 4th floor. Joshua is our Gamma, and I am the Beta. We are both the toughest fighters in our pack, aside from Alpha Samadraka. Joshua and I had both fought hard when it came to choosing Beta. My teeth had clamped down onto his arm, taking a chunk of his flesh. The warriors were all amazed by my animalistic fighting when in human form. That's what won me the title. Alpha Samadraka's room sat across the hall from mine, while Joshua's room sat to my right. The Omega had told us that Alpha Rushford's room was 2 doors down, on Alpha Samadraka's side. My lip quirked up at hearing this information. I was interested in seeing how the two alphas would coexist. For most packs, we spend a day or two helping plan or fight against rogues. We leave them with instructions on how to keep safe and limit any reappearance, but our stay here was permanent. We would have to stay here until we learn more about the war the Council mentioned. Our job was to gather intel, make the plan, and execute. I found my luggage waiting inside for me as I entered my new room. Unlike other rooms, this one had obsidian floors. The windows were large, and the closet and adjoining bathroom were both on the smaller side. But the bed was large, the sheets matched the black of the floors, and somehow everything in this room felt comfortable. It was a sensation I hadn't felt in years. Dinner soon came, and Alpha Rushford was nowhere to be seen. His father, the old Alpha, said he was in the middle of something. I scoffed at that, bringing unwanted attention to myself. Whispers spread around the table about a girl being a part of the Blackrain Pack. Many questioned how much truth there was in the stories circulating within the werewolf community. Surely a female couldn't be a warrior? Misogynistic people, I grunted as I stabbed my roasted purple potato. I put my focus elsewhere before my knife could accidentally fly out of my grip and into someone's shoulder. I also wondered where this alpha was. I could see Samadraka slowly losing his patience, but he began to eat his dinner with a scowl on his face, ignoring everyone. The room was slightly awkward as some of the Mountain Ash members tried talking to our pack, but as the drinks started flowing, so did the conversations. It wasn't long before some of my own had begun to mingle with the Mountain Ash. It didn't shock me that most of my pack were standoffish. We were all adjusting to our new life. A life no longer hidden in the shadows. A short girl with silky red hair tried talking to Butch, only to get a grunt in response. I had first thought the girl should thank her stars, but Butch was the type to attack when someone bothered him. I assumed he was playing nice. Dinner had progressively gotten better. Alpha Samadraka seemed more content with his now full belly and left for his quarters. More of the pack began mingling. However, the redhead didn't give up trying to talk to Butch. She kept making comments and asking questions, trying her best to be welcoming. When it looked like he was finally going to snap, a few others and I and my pack got a twinkle in our eyes, but that was before their eyes met. The wide eyes and loud gasps made it evident that they were mates. Red blushed as Butch made the first move and introduced himself. I kept to myself, feeling overwhelmed by the many voices and many bodies in the room. I wanted to sleep away the stress, but then an idiot from Mountain Ash decided to speak. So, how did you get into the pack? The two males beside him smirk as he continues. I heard you have a special ability. Special ability? Noting my confusion, he leaned in closer towards me. I heard you have a way with that body of yours. My stomach churned as his eyes scanned me from head to toe. A few more of his pack members tuned into our conversation, some giggling, others just watching the scene unfold. Joshua moved from beside me, his body slightly covering mine as we all stood from our seats. Watch your mouth. You're speaking to the beta of the Blackrain Pack. Show some respect. Respect, huh? The one thing that I thought would change when I joined the pack. Being a part of a well-known pack, one would think you would at least get some form of respect without demanding it, and here I thought we were regarded for being the warrior pack, the ones who put their lives on the line to protect anyone and everyone. Yeah, some respect would be nice. But I guess I was just some object to him. My eyes met Josh's, and I could see the small flicker of yellow in his chocolate eyes. He was naturally a hothead, one who would challenge an alpha if he felt he wasn't being treated fairly. That's when I would step in, unafraid of the pain to come from the backtalk or disrespect. Watch your tongue before I cut it out. My hands were still as my promise echoed throughout the dining room. Eli, stop it. Alpha is here already, someone muttered from the small crowd that had started to form around us. It was now that I noticed the chairs that had been pushed away, the plates left unattended at the table, wolves giving space for whatever was about to occur. It was too late for Eli to retreat. Josh had warned him, but he still disrespected a beta. The punishment would be up to me. This was the way of my pack. Nothing lethal, but a painful lesson wouldn't hurt. Well, it wouldn't hurt me anyway. I grabbed the steak knife that lay beside my discarded food, as the look of recognition overcame Eli's features. "Come on, you little pest." I grabbed his hand and placed the knife in it. "Maybe you'll have a chance with this." The emotions running through his face finally landed on one of determination as his eyes finished scanning the room. The poor guy wouldn't back down with his pack looking to him, looking to see if the rumors were true. Who is the girl in the Blackrain Pack? The pack's easy target or the pack's beta? Either way, one of us would end up on the floor, and a show would be put on for those around us. I almost felt bad. I could have walked away and been the bigger person, but then again, this is who I am. Pushing things further than they need to be, probably why Josh and I got along so well. We are both quick to anger. His eyes locked onto mine. A slight subconscious nod sent my way, as if he was readying himself to attack. His right arm raised, coming down with the knife I held moments ago. I duck out of the way, turning quickly and grabbing his wrist. With a slight twist, the knife falls from his palm and onto the floor, the slight clatter signaling his soon-to-be defeat. "Stop playing, Alex," Josh smirks at me. "You're never any fun," I mumble. I could see his crooked smile out of the corner of my eye. Yes, we really were family." I struck a jab to his throat, momentarily causing him to lose his breath. Taking the opportunity, I went in for the punch to the face, twisting to the left, landing a kick to his shin, then a final kick to the abdomen. I hadn't expected him to fall onto the table. The corner of the redwood table chipped off as he fell. "Why do you paint these pictures for me?" my wolf grumbles. Despite my wolf's commentary, I was all smiles as the man lay on the tiled floor. He held his stomach as very little blood trickled from his nose. I had to admit, I did enjoy the view of my mild assault, though my content was short-lived as I failed to notice the powerful presence in the dining room. What the hell is going on in here? Chapter 4. I remember only one time that my pack went silent at the tone of our alpha out of fear. I was only 13 then, a young girl looking for the approval she never got. I was reckless, not understanding why we kept our identities hidden. I remember going out into the city and meeting a boy. He was a wolf, a rogue, but not a crazed one. I knew these types of rogues existed, the ones who didn't have a pack, the ones who lived on their own. Those weren't the rogues we hunted. We hunted the ones who wanted to hurt their own kind. The crazed ones who couldn't work with the beast within them. I remember it being my first time traveling into the city alone. By then, I had already started to gain my peers' respect, not entirely, but enough that they would see me as one of them. I was used to pain. It's what made me stronger and more tolerant than the rest of my pack. I had spent the day with the boy, enjoying the feeling of being wanted, the feeling of having a friend. So, I invited him into our territory, telling him we were to be like spies. He was a year younger than I, and this game intrigued his adolescent mind. We played and played until we were found, pretending to be on a secret mission to take out Mr. Evil, otherwise known as Jonathan. He was the beta at the time, a hefty man who was a stickler for rules. "Follow the rules and there won't be any consequences," he'd always tell me. Though I guess this time I should have listened. Samadraka was beyond furious. His wolf rose and confronted the boy right in front of me. It was a lesson he never wanted me to forget, a rule never to break. Our pack stays secret. I remember watching everyone's eyes take in the scene, the small body of a child. Everyone surrounded me as I fell to my knees and cradled his petite body, crying for the loss of my first friend. It had been my fault. I knew the risks, I knew our rules, and that day I chose that boy's destiny. This was the only time I had seen true fear in the eyes of my pack members. That's what my mind replays as the wolves around me still, the scent of fear wafting throughout the room. My beast wanted to follow the herd. She hid in the corner of my mind, tail tucked. However, I had never been much of a rule follower. Yes, I had been scared of the tragedy of Roland Hines, my first friend. But my ego would never let me show my fear again. I would let my beast do all the hiding. So that's what I did. The chuckle escaped my rosy lips, echoing in the tense room. Apparently, I had a death wish. Then again, was that not my reason for living? Only to die. My pack members eye each other, then refocus on me. I could practically hear their quips through the mind link. If only I had a pack linked to the wolves of Mountain Ash, what could they possibly be thinking? I can feel their stares, like there's a red dot on my forehead that I am oblivious to. You think this is funny? You ruin my property and have the nerve to laugh in the face of your alpha. Great, I made him angry. Speak. You. Stop hiding behind your hair and show me the pathetic wolf who wishes to disrespect me. I wanted to laugh, though I suppose I had caused enough trouble for a day. I knew I would only bring trouble for my alpha if I were to continue, especially considering the fact that I had a hunch at who stood behind me. Power like that could only be from the infamous alpha. I was a strong wolf, but to take on one of the Kage, well, even I wasn't that stupid. I could hear the low growl, a sign that the alpha was ready to attack. Then, suddenly, my hair is being pulled, and my body gives way. He drags me away from the dining room and through the double doors. I can only see the wooden doors as my scalp feels the extreme force. My wolf wants to be let free, but I had gotten myself into this situation, and I would deal with my punishment. You smile and laugh as you assaulted one of my pack members and then destroyed my property. He throws my body like a rag doll. My body is weightless for a moment, like a bird taking flight. I feel the air Rushford past me, and then I'm falling. My body hits the wooden planks of the ground, and a bruise is surely to form. Anger pooled in my stomach as he grabbed at my scalp once again. My strength was nowhere to be found. I had let this man punish me, knowing I couldn't fight back. I knew I had to take the punishment, but the wild side of me screams at me to attack and protect myself. My thoughts begin to cloud. How could I stop this? How do I get this individual to listen to me? He had not asked what happened in the dining room. He did not look me in the eyes and ask for the truth before throwing me around like a child would its toys. And that's when it hit me. His large hand makes contact with my face, the sting of the hit lessened by the sparks that spread through my cheek. My head snaps up immediately, stormy gray eyes meet electric blue. My wolf yips at the new discovery, her tail wagging in excitement, running in circles as if she had won the lottery. I still as his left hand slowly releases my hair. His face contorts into something I cannot decipher. It seems that I would be breaking another rule. No mates. Yet, here he was. What a terrible joke. Chapter 5. My mother had told me at a very young age that I would never have a mate, that the moon goddess claimed I was unworthy of one. At first, I denied it. How could the moon goddess do something so terrible? My young mind refused to believe that the moon goddess would refuse me the fulfillment that every wolf experiences. However, as time passed and my mother constantly put me down at any chance she got, my adolescent mind began to believe her cruel words. No one would ever want such a girl. Your own father didn't want you. What makes you think another person would? I had believed her as my skin became littered with scars. Mother would remind me every day that I was of no worth, not even the simple task of having a child. She claimed that my existence was a mere mistake. I was never supposed to be born. I had been speechless the first time my mother said she didn't love me, and now, as I stand before my very mate that I wasn't supposed to have, I am speechless once again. My emotions were going haywire. My mouth kept opening and closing, trying to find the right words. I could not reject my mate. It is looked down upon, but I could not be with him. It was ingrained into my head that members of the Blackrain Pack don't mate. My mother had been right in telling me I was of no use when it came to the child department. However, my whole existence is meant only to serve the moon goddess and to put my life on the line when needed. He was attractive in a rugged way. Electric blue eyes, dark circles just under them, possibly from many late nights. His form was large and wide, every part of him toned and tan. He had stubble around his jaw, his brown hair disheveled and slightly curled. I could never comprehend when wolves would instantly feel a strong connection to their mates at first sight. Yes, it was ingrained into us, but merely feeling an intense bond with someone at first sight is strange. Well, that's what I would have thought before today. Everyone back to your rooms, he said suddenly, his eyes connecting to my own, before he walked away. I understood the predicament I was in. I had a mate, but that was against the rules. But then again, this is something I was told I would never have, and yet, the opportunity stands before me. My eyes stayed glued to his tense back as he walked away, his large steps leading him out of the room within seconds. Wait. He didn't acknowledge me. It's true. My wolf cried in my head. Her mate didn't seem to want her. He didn't acknowledge the bond. My wolf starts whining about finding him, talking to him, doing whatever we can to get him to notice us. Why does she cry? Have we not been preparing for this our entire lives? No mate, no child, protect the pack. I knew I was never to have a mate, but to feel him so close to me, to have him not acknowledge me, it felt unnatural. Everyone seemed to take the Alpha's warning and leave for their rooms, but I couldn't bring myself to be near his presence again. Remembering that his room was close to mine, I decided to go on a walk around the pack. I needed a moment to recover. It was a large amount of ground to cover. The grass was well kept, the plush, vibrant color confirming my thought. The pack itself was eerily silent, though wolves were walking about. Some were training, some were shopping at the small market located further down. I walked the pack about twice, making sure I remembered every single detail, memorizing every bush and tree, every face. As I kept passing by, members of Mountain Ash Pack kept staring at me. I understand the need to stare. I am a girl who has been living amongst the warrior pack. I am the beta of my pack. I had just laughed at their alpha. Of course, they would stare. It would not be brilliant of me not to be aware of this. Though I could argue it was silly of them to stare so openly at the beta of the warrior pack. With one final lap, I decided to make my way back to the pack house. I dreaded opening the front door, my feet dragging as I was met by both alphas as well as our gamma. All eyes went to me as I entered. Alex Samadraka greeted. Alpha, I replied, walking towards him. Tonight we will be introduced into the pack. I want you to tell the others, make sure they are all on time. I nod my head. Of course, I let out quickly, not wanting to be here any longer. In my frazzled state, I quickly climbed the stairs, passing Alpha Rushford, accidentally brushing my arm across his. Slight tingles erupted from the spot, filling me with warmth. It was an electrifying feeling, one that reached down to my toes. I could feel my face heat up as my feet pounded up the stairs faster than I had intended. It was around 9 when an older lady named Lily came into my room to give me a white dress for the introduction. It was soft and light. After, I sent the mind link to our warriors to meet outside. I slipped on the silky material, then let my hair down in its natural straight form, and proceeded to look at myself in the mirror. My white hair that complemented my pale skin, my gray eyes that reminded me of the stormy skies that constantly surrounded these mountains. I knew I was not unattractive, but the color of my hair will haunt me until the day I die. I liked how the white, silky dress looked on me. It had the perfect amount of coverage at the chest, and it hugged my hips nicely. A dress is a luxury I've never experienced. I've never been one to go out looking for feminine items, as the men in my pack could think me weak for wanting such a luxury. A knock sounded at the door. It's time to join this pack officially. Joshua stood outside my door, ready to lead me outside with the rest of our pack. Don't look so nervous, Lex. My face formed into a frown. I'm not nervous. As the best warriors in our pack, Joshua and I would be the first in everything. We made our way to the front of the line and waited to be called. Mountain Ash Pack, Rushford announced. Everyone went quiet. He continued, we are here to introduce the Blackrain Pack into ours. Alpha Samadraka will introduce them, then I will do the ritual. He gave Samadraka a nod to begin. It was beautiful. The night skies were covered in grays, blacks, and a slight purple. The thunder rumbled as Alpha Rushford spoke. Something about the combination went perfectly together. Alexis Knight, beta of the Blackrain Pack and top warrior, Samadraka announced with pride. My full name made me cringe slightly. Just hearing it brings back memories I wish I could forget. I have little scraps of memories of my mother, ones that have been scarred onto my body. I watch as Rushford cuts my palm, then his. I could feel a new bond being awakened. Do you swear to protect your pack and Alpha at any cost? Rushford asked seriously. I swear. Rushford looked towards the crowd. I present you, Alexis Knight of the Mountain Ash Pack. Chapter 6. The celebration the pack held after our induction was quite a sight. Drunken wolves dancing on one another, the stench of alcohol leaking from pores, and all while I sat down and stared off into the distance. Every once in a while, a drunk wolf would come and try to ask me to dance, but of course, I turned them down. I had a mate. No, I may not be able to be with him, as that is our code, but I would also not disrespect the moon goddess in such a way. Mates are precious, a gift from the goddess. I respect the goddess too much to reject him. My mate, however, was nowhere in sight. After the induction of my pack, he disappeared. I can only imagine it was because of the bond. The bond that seemed to grow stronger as my blood mixed with his. In another life, the mixing of our blood would symbolize something more sacred. The mate bond. The bond was the most sacred thing our goddess had given us. It was a gift to her children so that we wouldn't be alone. The moon goddess is known to work in mysterious ways, sometimes even dangerously. Stories have been told for centuries of wolves who reject their mate or are unfaithful. Those wolves usually end up dead or living miserably. I do not fear the council, nor do I fear wolves of an alpha rank, but the moon goddess is the exception, along with the power pack and my mother. After a few more hours of blaring music and dancing wolves, I finally decided to walk back to the pack house. I took a moment to enjoy the crisp, cold air that nipped at my skin. I heard the crunch of the leaves I stepped on as I made my way through the trees. The nighttime has always been my favorite. The moon was out to play among the stars, lighting the path for any wandering souls. Samadraka used to tell me stories about the stars to occupy my young mind years ago, mainly when my panic would set in during training. It's calming, the stars, the moonlight, the scent of earth. I remember all the times my mother used to hit me. She was always drunk and sad. After she'd let her anger out on me, I'd go outside and pray to the moon goddess to take me away. I guess she listened, because I found myself at the warrior pack, a place where I could create a new family. If it weren't for Alpha Samadraka, I don't know where I'd be right now. Actually, I would probably be dead. A surge of energy hit me the morning after I woke. I knew what today was, and I was more than ecstatic to show off and prove myself. I quickly did my morning routine and put on some clothes to train. Today, we would try out for our positions in the pack. We would all have to fight to earn our titles in this new pack. Since we are merging, Alpha Rushford wanted to see how we fought and if we were qualified to be a fighter in this pack. All of the warriors felt a pang of disrespect, but decided to comply with his wishes. His fighters must have some skill since they are ranked #1 in the country. All I knew was this would be brutal. Our pack is known as the Warrior Pack, ruthless and determined. We strive to win in an instant, no hesitation. It's who we are. And now the Alpha wants us to battle his fighters and keep the strongest. It was in my blood to be the best, to win every fight and make a wolf submit to me. After all, I was the beta for a reason. Chapter 7. The sky was beautiful today. It was a mix of baby blue and navy. I often noticed how beautiful the sky looked whenever conflict was imminent. I felt the wind kiss my skin as I stood on the opposite side of those who belonged to Mountain Ash. Blackrain stood beside me, all ready and excited to win. Today, we would fight for our ranking, warrior against warrior, 2 packs becoming 1. It didn't surprise me when I saw no other women on the empty clearing, though I wished I did. Perhaps the Mountain Ash Alpha was traditional? No. Alpha Rushford seemed like a lot of things, but strictly traditional wasn't one of them. It was not common for women to hold influential positions. This was the way of the world. It was expected of females to bear pups and take care of the home, as the man would provide. It was an instinct we had. Women would only fight if their pup were in danger. This is how it has been since the beginning of time. Hundreds of years later, I have only known a few women to make a power play. I had been born to become a warrior. The slight indent of a crescent in the center of my forehead signified that. No one could tell me that I could not be where I am today. The moon goddess herself and Apollo selected me, and no one defied the gods. Well, except one person. Alpha Arian Romanoff. She was the first female alpha ever to exist, born to the Rikers pack, a pack known for its relentless nature, in which no one wished to cross. Not even us. She was a force to be reckoned with, having lived with the teachings of the infamous Warzone pack and her infamous father, Andrei Romanoff. She created a name for herself quickly after killing her father and taking out her brother, the next soon-to-be Alpha. No one knows where the pack resides. Only one unfortunate soul was able to escape the pack. A young girl named Kayla. She was mated to a guard, but fled as soon as she could. She quickly told the townspeople how difficult their land was, and the remains were propped up at the gate, toughness encouraged within the border, pack members having used the remains of any unlucky rogues who got too close to the pack. She told of how they would hunt rogues for sport, the kind ones who didn't have a home to go to, tallying off every kill. However, before she could lead the council to the hidden pack, she was found dead. Her body hung from a ceiling, the word rat carved into her stomach. The council feared the damage this pack could cause. How could they get through the village's walls? No one knew. The only thing they knew was that the pack never attacked unless provoked. So the council issued a nationwide order. Stop scouting for the Riker's pack. Do not attempt to find it. If the word Riker is even breathed, let it go. And so, the legend of the Red Devil was born. Mountain Ash Pack, my attention was called away from my thoughts. Alpha Rushford began again. Today, you will all fight for your place, whether it be guard, a pack fighter, the beta, or gamma. Do not disappoint me. There was an edge to his voice, a warning to the wolves whom he personally trained. The two alphas stood next to each other, their eyes watching every one of our movements. Rushford looked annoyed, while Samadraka seemed calm. Though we could all feel the tension between the two, alphas were not meant to share power unless it was with their other half. Joshua, step forward, Samadraka spoke this time. Stephen, Rushford nodded him forward. The two would battle for the position of Gamma. The two wolves moved towards the center, where everyone could see. Stephen has an average build, a confident smirk on his face as he and Joshua begin circling each other. His eyebrows crinkled together, his eyes watching Joshua's form, catching every movement. He lunged, but Joshua dodged the attack by half an inch. They begin circling again. This time, Joshua attacks first. He swings his left arm at his opponent's stomach. I saw as it made contact, but the wolf didn't even flinch. Joshua looked wide-eyed at the man, shock covering his pale face. It was all Stephen needed to get a good shot at Joshua's face. They continued to attack back and forth, landing a few good shots here and there, but in the end, Stephen had won. I could see Samadraka's expression go dark as Joshua lay on the ground. I understood his anger. Joshua was trained and prepped to win any fight, and he lost. I would be lying if I said I wasn't the least bit upset. This was the first match, and one of my own had lost. I helped Joshua up and leaned him against the tree. That was bad. I smiled at him. It was, he replied with a smile. I stood and walked back next to my comrades. Across from me, I could see Rushford smirk. His smirk teased me as our eyes met briefly. He was enjoying this. Prick. I will admit, though, perhaps I didn't take his fighters seriously before, but now I worry for the upcoming fights. Butch was next. Butch looks precisely how you would expect him to, tall and big like the Hulk. If I didn't know the man personally, I would have thought he had a muscular build. His eyes quickly scan the perimeter, landing for a moment in the trees, then he steps forward. Percy, a dark man, is called Butch's opponent. His body is slender with little muscle. His body didn't show signs of being a fighter, but he had scars covering his arms, which could only be made by silver. Maybe not the strongest physically, but he was tough. The two stood against one another. Percy looked straight into the eyes of Butch as Butch rammed into him. Butch wasn't known to scope out the enemy. He throws himself into battle headfirst, with fists out. The large man knocked Percy off his feet and straight to the ground. We all saw his body fly a bit when Butch had rammed into him. We heard the small thud as the dark man hit his head against the earth. Butch stood over his body, lifting his fist, then bringing it down. The shot never connected as Percy kicked Butch in a vulnerable area. We all gasped in pain, knowing that it must have been painful. It was a desperate move to hit a man in that way, but sometimes fighting dirty is the only way to win. The hulking beast staggered back as a gasp reached our ears. I looked towards the sound, only to find the tree Butch had glanced at earlier. So she had come to watch her mate. Her eyes widened as her tiny form began to shake. I knew she was sensitive the first time I had seen her, but I was not one for the dramatics. He had only been struck. It wasn't like he had been shot with a silver bullet. Her distress called out to her mate, his eyes meeting hers for an instant. And then, the beast was on a warpath again. He snarled as his face contorted into the rage we all knew too well. The veins in his arms were protruding as his jaw clenched. Percy was on his feet in a split second. He had noticed exactly what we did. He moved quickly, aiming to land a blow to Butch's stomach, but the hulking beast grabbed his arm before it could land. The sickening crunch was audible as he twisted Percy's arm, then broke it. His cry of pain echoed through the clearing, his bone protruding, coming out of his skin. The group of wolves across from me looked horrified at what had occurred, but all I could do was maintain my focus. My expression was intense as Rushford made eye contact with me once again. This is why we are the hidden protectors of the Wers. Don't forget that, mate. I wish I could have mind-linked the jerk. Rushford kept his face neutral. Antonio, take Percy to the infirmary. We all watched as the blonde wolf took Percy away. The next hour went on like this, wolf against wolf, Blackrain against Mountain Ash. My patience was wearing thin as I waited for my name to be called. Most wolves have fought already. I had to be next. Alexandria, of Beta rank, step forward. Kyle, of Beta rank, step forward. How long? Joshua mind-linked me. I turned my head slightly with a smirk. 15. I could hear the rest of my comrades rally in the mind-link, everyone betting on how long the match would take. I knew we must have looked like we were plotting or cheating, but we were all waiting to see who would be correct in our little bet. I felt everyone's eyes follow me to the center of the clearing, where I raised my arms up, getting into a fighting stance. Kyle's confident grin stared back at me. Perhaps I could have been more cautious of this man. He was almost as large as Butch, though he did lack the extreme muscular look. His muscles seemed more natural. His arms go up partially to cover his face, getting into a stance similar to mine. He bounces on his feet slightly. He has the stance of a boxer. Immediately, I know what his mistake is. His arm shoots out, almost catching my face. 1. He tries again, throwing his whole body into the punch, definitely a boxer. He's quick on his feet, moving to the side slightly, then shooting his arm out again, scraping against my arm. I'm on defense as he's taken the offensive role. I watch as his fist comes out again. I don't move, too. I let the powerful blow knock into my shoulder. I heard the subtle gasp behind me. The wolves who knew me knew I was quick to end someone, never getting touched, but I was playing a different game here. 11. I let Kyle land a few hits on me, quickly tiring himself out. A smile etched onto my face as his fists came towards my face. This time, I moved out of the way. His mistake was simple, really. Boxers fight mainly with their arms, not their legs. It's the perfect time to land my hit. I bring my foot up, mustering all the force and strength, and strike his knee. The scream and snap that rings in my ears causes me to feel a Rushford of adrenaline, as if this pup could ever beat me. His leg twisted at an odd angle. I had just broken it. I was no doctor, but even I knew legs were not meant to bend the opposite way. As his body slammed to the ground with a cry, I wasted no time in jumping on him and landing blow after blow to his face. I wanted to permanently wipe off that smirk he and his stupid Alpha wore. The blood flowed out, becoming visible. The metallic scent invades my senses as I achieve a new high. 15. Is this what she wanted? To see me become the determined warrior I was. My eyes open as the content, soft smile lies on my face. Suddenly, I am no longer on top of Kyle. I am standing up next to Samadraka and Joshua as two wolves carry the beaten wolf away. Is this why I could not have my mate? I flashed my teeth towards Samadraka. Am I still Beta? I asked gleefully, enjoying the scared looks pointed in my direction. Chapter 8. The whips of wind were all that was heard around us. Alpha Rushford continued glaring at me as I had just become the new Beta of the Mountain Ash Pack. His glaring soon turned towards Samadraka, who had the grin of a Cheshire cat. It must be hard to control themselves from fighting for dominance, but they both knew they needed each other to win this unknown upcoming battle. The glaring soon stopped as Alpha Rushford commanded all wolves to retreat to the pack house. Tomorrow would be a new day. My excitement simmered down as I walked back to the pack house. Becoming Beta is a great honor. I have cherished it for the past 3 years, and now I will love it until I die. I crept into my room and jumped into the shower quickly. I needed time away from everyone. I would never admit it, but being around so many always put me on edge. Being alone has always been good for me. I ripped the dirty clothes off and hopped into the shower, where my overthinking began. If there was one flaw I had, this was it. Overthinking everything and anything. I analyze too much, I overthink, and then my thoughts begin to stray away. The loneliness starts to creep into me, and my thoughts soon turn to memories of her. She told me it was my fault we were rogues, that I was difficult, an embarrassment to the family. My father kicked us out and kept my 3 brothers. She blamed me for everything. She certainly was a difficult person. Someone I never wanted to be like, yet every day I take a step closer to becoming the harsh individual she was. My hands reach to my scalp, almost begging to rip out the white hair she cursed me with. They shake in anticipation, waiting for my order to pull out the white strands and let the small drops of blood fall, but I do not. I bring my shaking hands down and remember the only person who cared about me. When I finally calmed my thoughts, I got out of the shower and dressed in a V-neck and shorts. I slipped on my combat boots, then moved out of my room and downstairs. I made my way into the kitchen, only to find the familiar scent of my mate. He stood beside the counter, watching me walk into the kitchen. I ignored his stare, going through the fridge, picking out ingredients for a sandwich. I placed the ingredients on the counter and began to make my sandwich. "I don't trust you," he said. I gave him a bored look, then kept putting mayo on my bread. "You are my mate, but I don't want you. You will only get in my way and put a target on yourself." I cut the tomatoes, then layered them on the slice of ham. I am a warrior. Having targets on my back comes with the job. I turned to look at him. "I don't trust you either, and I probably never will. I am a warrior, and warriors do not give in to emotional distress over mates. I will not be troubled over you. You are nothing to me." The nonchalant response slipped from my lips. The words sent a pang of hurt to my heart as I forced them out. My wolf whimpered in my head at my honest response. I wouldn't struggle and pine for him. He is nothing to me. I was raised to be tough and live without a mate. I've gone my entire life without the affection I was supposed to get. Mothers are supposed to love their daughters. Fathers are supposed to love their daughters. Mates are supposed to cherish their mates. None of that happened for me. I would be fine without him. The next day came sooner than expected. I stood in the Alpha's office with Steven on my right. We waited for our instructions. They went back and forth talking about an issue with the rogues. Rogues were not all bad, but the majority are problematic and cruel. I was getting bored with the 2 alpha males bashing each other's ideas, so I went to sit on the red chair beside the desk. Steven shot me a look before he, too, took a seat. Seeing 2 alphas banter is quite amusing, the veins protruding from Rushford's arm, the low growls that Samadraka emits, it's all quite entertaining. However, when Samadraka shot his hand out and caught Alpha Rushford in the face, the atmosphere was anything but amusing. Samadraka is a strong, large wolf, but he was not born alpha. It was as if time slowed down. My body lurched forward as I saw Rushford's hand come out to retaliate. As I stepped right in front of Samadraka, a stinging sensation came over my abdomen. Blood flowed from my clawed stomach, my breath was caught in my throat, and my knees buckled from under me. It was all in slow motion, yet so quick. The pained grunt left my lips as I clutched the bleeding claw marks on my stomach. For a split second, I saw it. The shimmer of worry passes through Alpha Rushford's electric eyes. Interesting. Chapter 9. The claw marks soon healed as I spent the rest of the day in the clinic. Alpha Rushford had commanded the doctor to keep me overnight. I'd be lying if I said the action didn't make my heart flutter. Being a warrior didn't cause me to be exempt from the effects of the mate bond. The bond would continue to grow and play tricks on me, causing my heart and body to act in mysterious ways I could not fully control. Today, both alphas ordered Steven and me to train the new fighters of Blackrain Pack. I knew Rushford wanted to see my capabilities, as Samadraka wanted to see Stephen's. We stood at the front of the pack of fighters. "Everyone pair up," Stephen commanded. Once they were all paired, we told them to spar. We walked around looking at everyone's techniques and forms. That's when I noticed the problem. Everyone stop. They all turned towards me, as well as the alphas and Stephen. "I don't know how they taught you to fight here," I said, glancing at a sure alpha, "but your techniques will get you killed. You all repeat the same sequence and the same moves. It will not take an enemy long to figure out your next moves." Their fighting style confused me. How could this be the #1 pack in the country? Perhaps they relied more on strength than skill. Of course, I had relied on stealth and skill, never much on strength. Who was I to judge? "You two, come forward." The two fighters moved in front of me. "Fight." They began to fight, using the same techniques and sequences, taking a glance at me every once in a while. "Do you all see that?" I asked the group of fighters. When fighting an enemy, you need to use every point of your body, your teeth, elbows, your head. Throw in a curveball to catch your enemy off guard. The wolves all nodded in agreement, knowing my words were valid again. For hours later, the wolves learned a few new things. I taught some about pressure points and a couple of new moves. We were about to start running more laps when Mark announced the rogues' sighting via the pack link. "The rogues are at the crossing," he announced. We ran as quickly as we could, some slower due to our training. I arrived at the border, seeing some overly excited wolves and tense fighters. Alpha Samadraka sat on the grass, patiently waiting for the upcoming event, while Rushford had a look of confusion, seeing all the previous Blackrain members excited. It wasn't long before we heard the tearing of clothing and saw the hulking brown wolf appear in front of us. The half-bitten ear and scar along the back of the wolf's body were familiar sights. Butch's wolf form ran straight into the trees, howling our warrior cry, a sound so guttural and filled with strength. A crack echoed through the air. "Showtime." 6 rogues. That's how many we heard cry and call out in distress. We saw and listened to their bodies break. The brown wolf zigzagged through the trees, blood smeared on his snout, a serious sight to see. The excited wolves all chuckled, seeing the rogues' bodies. The others, however, remained silent. "That was amazing," Ben applauded as Peter patted Butch on the head. "Haven't seen that in a while," James added. Butch then shifted back to his human form in all his glory, giving a mock bow. "No photos, please," he joked. That man could be the quietest and angriest person I've ever met, but after a successful engagement, he was always as happy as can be. We were enveloped in our conversation until we heard someone sob. We all turned to see the girl with red hair, Butch's mate, Ariana. "How could you do that to someone?" she cried out to her mate, while the tears streamed from her emerald eyes. Was she serious? "They are here to hurt us, Ariana. They are not allies. They are our enemies. Grow up." I sneered, passing right beside her. She ran away, holding her crying face into her hands. I could see the look of concern on Butch's face. I gave him a nod to follow his mate. Soon, he too was running. The awkward silence that was left over the field caused everyone to leave. I decided against leaving and stood to face the border, watching as a couple of wolves went to drag the defeated bodies away. Someone needs to investigate how those rogues got so close to our border. Was this the oncoming threat Alpha Samadraka was scared of? As I moved closer to the line, I could feel Alpha Rushford near me. The heat he radiated tickled my skin, sending goosebumps across my skin. "Stopping rogues isn't for sport, it's for protection," he said as his hands went through my hair. I nodded in agreement, unable to speak at the close contact. The bond was working its magic. "And yet, your pack reveled in their defeat." It came out as a whisper, as if he were talking to himself. I let out a humorless laugh. "Did you expect us to mourn them?" My eyes landed on his. We stood there in silence for a moment, his hands leaving my hair with an inhale of breath, as if he had just realized what he was doing. "The bond is forcing him to act this way," her voice whispered through my head. "Anyone can become rogue," he stated with a turn. "You should do well to remember that." My eyes remained glued to his retreating form as something warm had fallen onto my skin, and my hand reached to wipe away the tears. It had been a long time since I last cried. Not since, no. I turned my form back to the crossing where the rogues had just been. My job was to investigate, not worry over the ethics of my pack. Chapter 10. Wolves were running around frantically. Earlier today, Alpha Rushford had announced that the council was on its way to see our pack. This would be the first time the council ever came to anyone's pack, so it was a big deal. I, however, didn't care much for the group of old men, but Samadraka said to play nice, so that is what I will do. I've spent the entire week organizing and reading through documents. It was pretty interesting to learn about your pack members. A boy named Tyler was born smaller than average and has been working in the kitchen along with the Omegas. I've seen many wolves in my time, but I have never come across a wolf born smaller than average. It did anger me a bit that he was placed in the kitchen as if he were the common help, just because he was born smaller and less intense than a normal wolf. A few files were missing. Alpha Rushford took most of them before I had a chance to look at them. He said he wanted to review the new wolves in the pack before allowing Steven and me to organize them in the cabinets. It made me happy when he couldn't find my file with the rest. I knew why my file was missing. It had never been made. I didn't want any documentation of who I was or how I came to be in the warrior pack. Samadraka agreed that it was best to keep my existence quiet. I hoped that Rushford wouldn't notice the disappearance of my file, but that man notices everything. He spent the week trying to get me to talk, and I shrugged, pretending I knew nothing about my file. I could tell I was irritating him, but what do I care? He deserves it. Never had I thought I would find a mate, and when I do, he doesn't want me. Isn't that something? I respect his decision not to have me as a mate, but I just wanted to know his reason. His reason is that he would go against the moon goddess. For going against the one person destined to make him happy and complete. I could think of a few reasons. My mother had always told me I was a difficult child. I never believed her, but with so many scars covering my body, it could be a possibility. Rushford probably disapproves of the way my personality is, but I would never change myself for him, mate or not. I walked to the borderline alongside Steven, Rushford, and Samadraka. The council was already here, and we had to await their grand entrance. 3 men with salt and pepper hair crossed over the borderline and into our pack. I could feel the aura of power radiating from them. It made my wolf growl in my head. Weird. The councilmen are close Lycan descendants. We have 2 other packs in the country that are actually of Lycan blood. The power pack is like royalty. The old king was a full-blooded Lycan. No one has seen the power pack in years. After the fall of the Warzone pack, another pack with the bloodline of a Lycan, the council was made up. That's what made them so powerful. They had the protection of the power pack and a good bloodline. Nowhere near as strong as the Power Pack or Warzone Pack, but still strong enough. Alpha Rushford, Alpha Samadraka, the man with large bags under his eyes spoke. Harold, an honor to have you here, Samadraka greeted. This is Beta Alex and Gamma Steven. We both gave a nod. I'm Kiro. It's a pleasure to meet you, Alex. He brought my hand to his mouth and gave a kiss. I'm Lander. He paused to stare at me. Is that your natural hair color? His eyebrows wrinkled in question. No, I lied. I let a small smile slip on. I had it done in a nice little beauty salon. I ran my finger through my hair. One of the best salons I've been to in a while. I let out a small laugh. I haven't seen hair like that in years. Alex, was it? Yes, my body wanted to tense. Last name. Knight. Alexis Knight. He hummed, Knight? Guess I was wrong. He whispered the last part. Shall we get going? He turned back to Samadraka and Rushford, who were both staring at me intently for different reasons. Alpha Rushford led the way to the pack house as I tried to keep my heart from beating too fast. He knew. He had to know. Did he believe my lie? No. A councilman would know when a wolf would lie, right? Stop panicking. He knows nothing. My wolf calms me. I choose to believe her as I let a huge breath out. I make my way towards the pack house, following the group inside, silently praying for them to leave as soon as possible. Chapter 11. I sat on the small sofa with Steven to my left, listening to the conversation between the alphas and the council members. In all honesty, I wasn't entirely paying attention. only enough to know what was going on. Harold was talking about how our pack was coming along, if the wolves were getting along, all that kind of detail. Kiro nodded his head while Harold spoke and sent me a wink every so often. Lander kept glancing at me, then back at the alphas. It was nerve-wracking being in his presence. If anyone could figure out who I was, it was him. He was the only one to notice my hair. Most assumed that it was dyed, but he knew the white hair was natural. I loved my hair, but I hated that I got it from my mother. Even though she is gone, she still finds a way to cause me distress. I don't remember a time when I thought my mother truly cared for me. I spent my life being physically disciplined until I was on the brink of exhaustion, then she'd stop and let me heal for the day. My body tenses as a wave of memories rolls through me. I sometimes wished I knew who my father was. Maybe he would have saved me from her daily punishments. Maybe my 3 brothers, she told me about, would have protected me from her. Or maybe they wouldn't care. A waving hand in front of my face brings me from my thoughts. I look to see everyone staring at me, Lander staring more harshly than the others. Sorry, I apologized. Rushford cleared his throat. What is the real reason you are here? He asked the councilman. It didn't surprise me that Rushford knew all of this was small talk leading up to the main issue. No matter how much I hate to admit it, Rushford is actually a wise man. Kiro spoke. We have a problem. A wolf has been going around terrorizing packs, looking for something. His eyes searched the room nervously, as if he was waiting for something to attack him. I sat straight at his nervous behavior. Why would a councilman be so anxious? He is stronger than the usual wolf. What are they looking for? Samadraka quickly glanced at me, probably thinking the same as I. The room is growing tense, and I don't like it. A key, Harold whispered. The quiet, timid behavior was a drastic change from the firm, stern tone before. My thoughts then went back to what he said. A wolf looking for a key? What key? Rushford voiced my question. Lander scanned the room. We don't know what key they are looking for, just that they are looking for one. Kiro then spoke. The wolf has killed 48 pack members from 4 different packs. We need this handled. Harold nodded in agreement. Kiro continued, Alpha Samadraka, Alpha Rushford, you 2 are the leaders of the 2 strong packs. We believe you are the right pick for the job. Rushford and Samadraka exchanged a look with both Stephen and me. This all seemed so strange. A wolf strong enough to kill that many wolves, and that strikes fear into the council. They have to be from a strong bloodline. Rushford accepted the council's offer after gauging our expressions. I could tell that we were all more curious about who the wolf was than being fearful of them, like the council. Soon, the 3 old men were leaving our territory, but not before Lander shot me a glance. I held his gaze for a moment, and the wolf within me refused to back down. His eyebrows shot up in surprise at my blatant confidence, but I could not stop her. He then turned his back and caught up with the other 2. Why would you do that? I scolded my wolf. She huffed and ignored me. A breath escapes me as I know I have just given Lander further evidence of who I am. First, the unnatural hair color, and now the confidence that my wolf pushes to have. At times, she even oozes her dominance when she feels Alpha Samadraka has disrespected her. Thankfully, after many conversations about how Samadraka has cared for us, she has calmed down and let him be the alpha he was chosen to be. Please, goddess, don't let them see the real me. I sent a silent prayer into the sky. If they find out who I am, I'll be eliminated like the rest of my bloodline. I begin to walk out the door with only one thought left in my head. I have to find Walkley. Chapter 12. Chaos. That's the only word that came to mind. Packs all over are panicking about the wolf that's killing for some unknown key. Red Dawn Pack was the last one attacked. All the packs near us have been on high alert, constantly watching and waiting for an attack. Nothing good has come from the attacks. No information about the leader has been brought. However, we found that the unknown wolf has a group of rogues behind it. A small group of 8 has been terrorizing packs, following the unknown leader who is said to move around, killing instantly and swiftly. The way they spoke of the unknown wolf reminded me of us. We were the wolves who killed without being seen. This wolf has to be from a strong bloodline or have been trained by our warrior pack. Speculation has it that it might be Adam, a warrior wolf who left the pack 15 years ago. No one knows where he went or why he left. Whatever the reason, he's a rogue now and our possible enemy. Rogues are dangerous, vicious individuals. They prey on the weak and kill without hesitation. My mother was the perfect example of a rogue. She was cold and abusive. If she could hurt her own daughter, imagine what she did to other rogues. A chill runs up my spine at the thought of her. Stephen was on border patrol during the day, while I took over at night. We decided it would be best to take turns watching our perimeter. I was always a night owl, so night patrol didn't bother me. Every day, I searched and called other packs, pulled files, and gathered any information on the attacks, but not much came up. 2 weeks have passed, and we still have no leads on the unknown wolf. I finally managed to get out of bed. It's noon. Last night we heard rustling in the bushes, but it turned out to be a rabbit. The guards on patrol with me were already on edge. They jumped into the bush at the sound and squashed the poor little critter. I go to take a shower, then wash my face. I slip on my dark shorts and black tank top, then put on my combat boots. My hair is up in a ponytail, and soon I'm descending the stairs. The smell of coffee makes my legs move faster towards the kitchen. I practically jump at the sight of the freshly brewed coffee. Even though I was perfectly fine with night patrol, I hardly slept. I pour myself a big cup of coffee and allow myself to relax by closing my eyes and enjoying the taste of coffee on my lips. A satisfied hum leaves my mouth only to be followed by a low growl. My eyes pop open to see Rushford staring at me from the kitchen table. I turn my back to him quickly and continue to drink my coffee. "You're not sleeping enough," he said. "I'm fine," I rolled my eyes. A low growl escapes him again. "My wolf doesn't like that you're tired." I turn to face him, then tell him to step back. Another growl escapes him as he rises from his chair and stalks towards me. I kept my head high as he stopped right in front of me. We stare into each other's eyes for a moment, then he reaches for the coffee pot beside me. He pours himself a cup, then begins to walk out of the kitchen. "Meet me in my office when you are done," he says as he exits. I could feel my heart begin to beat faster than usual. My palms are a tad sweaty. A simple look from him, and I was affected. I don't like the way he makes me feel. The Bond and the Moon Goddess are playing a dangerous game pairing Alpha Rushford and me together. I was glad to see Samadraka in the office when I arrived. Seeing him would keep my emotions in check around Rushford. I sat in a chair as we began discussing the situation with the unknown wolf and their group of rogues. They recited all the information, giving an overview before we started throwing ideas. "It's only a matter of time before they come here," I said as the thought came to me suddenly. "What?" they both asked. "Red Dawn Pack is only a few miles from here. If I had to guess, Yellowstone Pack is next, then us." "Perhaps," Rushford mumbled. I continued, "When they do come, it is best to have wolves from our warrior pack fight. The others are not ready yet. They'll be defeated instantly." "You don't think my fighters are good enough to take down rogues?" Rushford growled out. "They're good, just not ready for these specific rogues. The warriors are trained to take down the strongest of rogues. This group of rogues is killing relentlessly Alpha. A group, meaning that they are strong and very skilled. The warriors are skilled in taking down these types of rogues," I finished. "No one has encountered rogues this skilled or this strong. What makes the warriors so different?" "Because they were trained by you." "You know nothing." His eyebrows scrunched together in irritation at my words. It seems that I have bruised his ego sad. There was a pregnant pause as Samadraka and I allowed Alpha Rushford to take a few breaths before continuing. Samadraka and I then followed in catching some air as well. Samadraka spoke calmly. "Alpha Rushford, the warriors are trained for these rogues. They know how to take them down swiftly." "How would you know?" Rushford began to clench his fists. "Because dash." I interrupted Samadraka because I used to be a rogue. Chapter 13. A rogue, my mate questioned. "That's what I said." He looked deep in thought before speaking again. "Even if you were a rogue, it doesn't prove you know how to take down these rogues." I let out a humorless laugh. "You know nothing of my life. I won against one of the most dangerous rogues in the world." "And who would that be?" He asked with curiosity swimming in his electric eyes. Her face comes to mind. It doesn't matter. What matters is your fighters will be defeated in seconds. Our warriors will be able to handle the rogues. We stayed in the office arguing for 3 hours over who would fight when the rogues arrived. Ultimately, Alpha Rushford had made some good points. We pride ourselves on our wolves from the warrior pack for being excellent fighters, yet some of Rushford's wolves had taken some warriors down when we fought for our titles. It was hard to acknowledge that he was right, but in the end, protecting our pack is all that matters. I knew Rushford could handle himself. He is a natural-born alpha. He was born stronger and faster than regular wolves. Samadraka could handle himself as well. He may not be a born alpha, but he has all the characteristics of one. I never worried about myself. I knew my potential and strength. I knew I could survive against a rogue or a regular wolf, perhaps an alpha-born, but even then, I am still unsure. I busied myself with documents while Rushford made calls to different packs, trying to get any information. They only told us that this group of rogues was the most determined group they've ever encountered. My mind goes to Walkley as the phrase determined individual is said. I remember when Samadraka had called him that, but I knew it was an accident. I should have spoken up when I had the chance. The phone slammed down as his breath came out rapidly. I could feel his irritation and anger from my chair. Suddenly, there isn't harsh breathing, only hot air beside my neck. He stood there breathing in my scent, trying to calm himself and his wolf. His eyes found mine. Was it hard? He asked. What? My voice trembled at his proximity. When you defeated the rogue. I took a deep breath. Yes, it was. I was only 8 years old when I fought the rogue. 8 years old, he moves right in front of me, searching my eyes. It was a forced shift. A lot of things happened that day. When it was just the rogue and me, my wolf decided to make an appearance. My wolf begins to whimper as the image of the problematic situation pops into my head. His eyes shone with pity. I don't like it. A forced shift was the worst pain a wolf could go through. Going through a forced shift means that there was some trauma and danger involved. It usually occurs when you're close to a critical situation. I cleared my throat and looked away from his eyes. Anyways, I need your opinion on something. He looked at me to continue as he moved to take his seat. I'm assuming the leader of the group of rogues isn't going to make an appearance. Meaning we should take some rogues captive to get information out of them. Samadraka will want me to do the interrogation along your side. Why you? He asked. It's what I'm good at. My eyes shine in pride as my hands tingle with readiness. I was the best at getting information out of people. We shall see. I continued working on the documents while Rushford kept calling around. We kept taking side glances at each other. It prompted multiple questions. Why don't you want me? I said abruptly while dropping the documents on the table. He looked shocked for a second, then pulled his usual cold look. I already told you. I don't trust Dash. You can learn to trust me, I interrupted. You, and I know that isn't the real reason. I don't understand. We're made to complete each other and make each other happy. The words fell from my mouth. Did I want a relationship with Rushford? No. That's absurd. I could hear the insecurity in my voice. I wanted to stop running my mouth, but I couldn't stop. Is it because of my scars? What? You think I'm difficult because of them? Do I make you feel less capable because I can hold my own? My mind has swum with these questions I always wanted answered, but never wanted to ask. Where was this coming from? He sat there in silence. My wolf urged me to continue speaking. I was taught that a mate was problematic, and you can learn to trust me, so that isn't the reason. I just want to know the reason. I needed to know, to put my mind at ease and erase all the possibilities that my brain came up with. I took a deep breath, then gathered up the documents in my hands and stood up, but he didn't make a move to speak. Please excuse my behavior, Alpha. It will never happen again. I apologized for my abrupt questioning. I made my way towards the door, wanting to rid myself of the embarrassment I had caused. I couldn't believe I let the bond and my curiosity get the better of me. A tug on my shoulder pulls me from my thoughts. I came face to face with Rushford. I'm scared, he mumbled. I didn't have time to ask what he meant as his lips pressed against mine in a passionate embrace. My eyes were wide in shock, and my lips stayed still as I tried to process what was occurring. The documents scattered to the floor as he lifted me into his arms. My legs wrap around him as if on instinct. My back is soon pressed against the wall, and that's when I respond. Rushford bites my bottom lip, asking for entrance, which I give without a second thought. The taste of him was overwhelming. I had never felt like this before. My hands went to grip his hair. He let out a low growl, then reached to touch my back. My wolf began to express happiness. After a few minutes, we separated, looking at each other with a whirlwind of emotions, but only one stood out to me. "Who are you?" His eyes shining in fear. Chapter 14. I felt confused at his words. Who am I? What does that even mean? Why does he look scared of me? My eyes grew wide as another thought worked into my head. Does he know who I am? My lips opened to ask the simple, yet scary question, but before I could, he spoke first. Get out. His soft features turned into his usual cold ones. He was no longer near me, no longer had his lips on mine, no longer held me in his grip. The moment was gone, and I feared that it wouldn't happen again. He wouldn't let himself be open again. He will continue to be cold and distant. His simple command made my eyes watery. I felt sadness sweep over me, knowing he and I would never be the type of mates wolves dreamed about. Of course, he wouldn't want me. No one wants me. I am a determined fighter. Perhaps he has realized that, too. I picked up the documents from the floor and hurriedly ran out the door. My wolf whined and whimpered in my head. I want a mate, she cried. I couldn't respond to her. My lips began to tremble as I pushed my legs to go faster. Idiot. I can hear her yell. Difficult individual. Her voice continues to echo in my ears. I plead with her to stop, but she does not. Suddenly, I am in my room. My hands feel my hair, then my face, and down all the way to my toes. My eyes close and I take a breath. They open, and she's no longer here. She's gone, I whisper to myself. I decided to throw myself into work to keep my thoughts from her. I spent the entire day looking over documents. I didn't go down for dinner. I couldn't bear to look at him, knowing there would probably be some girl around him to show that we were nothing. Once I finished looking over all the documents and files, I decided to clear my mind for a bit and paint. I always liked to paint. It was one of the few things that kept me focused while with my mother. Actually, painting was something that kept my mother from attacking me. She admired my work. I would acquire the paint and canvas from a village not far from where we stayed. However, once I ran out of canvas and paint, it was back to normal. Back to my daily physical discipline. Back to being in difficult situations. I painted the night sky. The dark purples, the different shades of blue, some gray, a little black, and some white. Along with the night sky, I painted the woods along the bottom. The painting was a replica of the view from my window. I then painted my wolf in between the trees, a silver wolf with a matching set of silver eyes. My wolf was larger compared to other wolves and more determined. It took a lot out of me not to give her control, but it was safer that way. I hadn't realized I spent the night painting until I heard Stephen call me down for breakfast. Thank goddess I didn't have the night shift last night. I quickly changed into black leggings, a sports bra, and running shoes. I grabbed my hair into a ponytail and raced down the stairs. Seeing everyone seated with food meant that I was late. I grabbed a plate and filled it with a muffin, eggs, and 2 slices of bacon, then moved to sit. I felt eyes on me and assumed it was because I came late, but the longer I ate, the longer I felt the stares. I slammed my utensils on the table and glared at those staring at me. Half the table flinched back while the others continued to stare. What? I hissed. Stephen made gestures toward me, then toward my hands. It was then that I realized I was covered in paint. So, what if I was covered in paint? Was that a crime? You paint? Stephen asked hesitantly. I nodded, then continued to eat. Breakfast went like that for the next 20 minutes before I went to fulfill my duties. Stephen went to the border while I went to check whether the pack members needed any assistance. It seemed like today would be a slow day. I spent half an hour helping the pregnant ladies, then with the elderly. I was making my way towards the garden when I heard a little girl crying. My feet moved on their own, bringing me to where the girl was. 2 boys were pushing the girl, causing her to fall to the ground while she bawled. I dashed over and grabbed the 2 boys by the ears, pulling them away from the little girl. "What is the meaning of this?" I yelled. "It's okay, she's my sister," the blonde boy replied. My blood boiled at the thought of him hurting his little sister. "You will never lay a hand on your sister again, or I will have you be disciplined in front of the whole pack." His eyes went wide at my statement. To be disciplined in front of the pack brought shame to you and your family. It wasn't something taken lightly. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "Get out of here," I commanded. The 2 boys scurried off. I turned my attention to the girl with tears staining her face. She had a bruise on her cheek and a small cut on her arm. "Thank you," she squeaked. "There's no need to thank me. He shouldn't have done that." "What is your name?" "Alice." "Well, Alice, I was on my way to the gardens to look at the flowers. Would you like to come with me?" I asked softly. She nodded her head. I held her little hand, making our way towards the garden. Once we arrived, she suggested making flower crowns, and I immediately said yes. I hadn't been around children much, but whenever I was, I cherished every moment. Most didn't realize it, but children are smart in their own ways, seeing things others don't. We spent the day making a bunch of flower crowns as she told me about herself. The sun began to go down, and I decided it was time to take Alice home. Alice had a lovely family. I told her parents about what had occurred earlier. Her parents looked very serious about addressing their son's actions. They thanked me for watching out for Alice. Truth was, I didn't mind being with her. She held so much innocence. It was refreshing to see what a normal childhood consisted of, making flower crowns, playing with friends, and watching cartoons. I walked my way to the border, knowing my shift was going to begin any minute. When I arrived, there was no one in sight. That's odd. I began sniffing around, trying to figure out what was happening. And that's when I smelled it. Rogues. Chapter 15. I shifted as soon as the scent of rogues hit me. The smell of metal filled my nostrils as I saw the border patrolman ripped apart. My wolf pounded towards the faint heartbeat of Richard, a night patrolman. I saw the light leave his eyes as his final breath rang through my head. I gasped at the bubbling feeling that rose in my chest, anger. The rogues heard my intake of breath, turning to see me a foot away. They began to run at me. I reacted quickly, dodging one attack as I ran for a minute to give myself a reasonable distance to fight. Rogues on the south side border, I sent the mind link to any wolf who could fight. I turned to face my enemies. The packs that were attacked were wrong. This wasn't a group of wolves, it was a pack. About 100 rogues stood at the borderline, waiting for a moment. I felt the paws thump from behind me, and I felt an ounce of anxiousness fill me. I made my way towards the Alphas, Samadraka and Rushford in the front, both still in human form. The rogue at the center turned into his human form, standing in all his glory. "The enemy knows you have the key." "Give it up," the rogue snarled, his teeth black and yellow. "We have no key." "Leave my territory, or you shall die where you stand," Rushford commanded. The rogue then turned back into his wolf form, showing that he and his pack would not leave. Soon, the howls and growls of rage and pain filled the air. The scent of blood wafted through my nostrils as I fought rogues. I clawed, bit, and eliminated any rogue that dared to attack me. A cry filled the air. Stephen lay still on the ground, covered in blood. My wolf was fighting to be released, but I couldn't let her, not now. I took out 5 more rogues, but the sound of more cries and whimpers called to me. Our pack members lay on the ground, close to passing. Samadraka was limping, and Rushford had a large gash on his side, but kept fighting. More fighters joined the conflict, some passed, and others lay on the floor close to passing. This was going to be a bloodbath. My wolf whimpered at the sight of her hurt mate. Soon, intense feeling coursed through me. I couldn't fight the rogues and save my people as my wolf was fighting to take over control. Rushford POV. Snap. I broke the rogue's neck and moved to the next. The whimper of my mate caught my attention. I raced to the other side of the field, only to find my mate with no severe injuries. She had a couple of minor scratches, but nothing major to whimper out. I saw Alpha Rushford to her side, looking into her wolf eyes. She kept shaking her head and moving her body awkwardly. It was like she was having an internal battle. I couldn't hear what Alpha whispered to her, but I saw my mate shake her head hesitantly. He stepped away from her. Retreat. Alpha used his alpha command. My wolf snarled in disagreement. What kind of alpha retreats? Our fighters ran to safety, dragging some of our injured ones. My eyes taking the distressed look some wolves of the warrior pack throw to my mate. Their eyes never moved off of her wolf form. I could see her green eyes widen in fright. They all moved to the front of the pack house, where we were still visible. Alpha came next to me. You have to move. Go with the rest, his voice coming out quickly. I growled at him. Who is he to command me? If he wants to be a coward, he can, but I will not. Please, you'll understand soon, he pleaded. My wolf whined as I moved to attack another rogue, but my legs didn't comply with my command. Instead, they began to walk towards our fighters, all watching Alpha and my mate. I pushed my body to move forward, but I couldn't. All I could do was sit there on my hind legs and watch as the rogues attacked my mate. Without our help, they would both be defeated. My wolf cried out, panicking, digging his paws into the dirt, trying to move, but again, nothing. It was at that moment that I knew who was responsible, the moon goddess. If she wanted me in this spot, this is where I have to be. The rogues had stopped moving to look at what we were doing, curiosity shining in their eyes. I'm sorry, Alpha apologized to Alex. He looked my mate in the eyes, then turned and ran to us. Anger consumed me as he left her to fight alone. How could the moon goddess want this? It doesn't make sense. All eyes were on her. There was a sudden switch in the air, and an aura of dominance washed over the field. All I could see was her wolf shake out her fur, while plastering a determined wolf grin on her face. Her eyes turned to a steel silver, digging her paws into the ground, then leaping to attack. It was like a blur. Opponents were dispatched, and the sight of blood covered the now red field. Blood was all over her fur, but she didn't seem to mind it. In fact, she seems to find it acceptable. She had a rogue in her mouth, bringing him towards us and laying him down at our feet. I could hear his heart. He was barely alive. Many of the rogues ran off as Alex fought flawlessly and determinedly. Who is she? The question rings in my head. Alex, we're safe. You kept us safe, Alpha softly caressed her snout. The forest green eyes returned, mirroring our expression of horror. She let out a whine, causing Alpha to pet the top of her head. He leaned in to whisper an apology. A tear slid down his face as he stared at my mate. It was then that I realized what had happened. She used to be a rogue. She and her wolf are not in sync. Her wolf is wild, fearless, and a powerful fighter. But no rogue is that powerful. Who are you, little mate? Chapter 16. Guilt flooded over me. When I turned to look at the field, signs of intense conflict were scattered around. I knew letting my wolf loose was needed to fight these rogues, but at what cost? I feared that my distress would return. I feared that I would have new difficulties. I feared myself. The look of horror etched onto everyone's face made what I did sink in further. The warriors had seen me like this before. It wasn't a pleasant sight. I watched as the wolves slowly started to walk away, dragging some of our pack to medical, some to the pack house, and some to the cells. The warriors had caught 2 rogues and put them down there, along with the one I decided not to kill. My eyes soon found Rushford's, filled with the same horror, but had a hint of awe. I turned my back quickly and ran through the woods, wanting to clear my mind. I could hear telling Rushford not to follow me, and for that I was thankful. My wolf was silent as I wove my way through the trees. I pushed my paws into the ground, suddenly stopping. I needed to stop. I need to take a breath. My ears twitch at the sound of a critter. I stand on my 4 legs and run again. I spent 2 hours running. I repeat the short battle over and over in my head. The look on the faces of the rogues when they knew they were next, the loud cries that shook me to my core, the spilled blood on the grass. Everyone is going to see me for the powerful fighter I truly am. Making my way back to the pack house, I kept my head high, not wanting anyone to see how I truly felt. I strutted up the stairs in my wolf form until I reached my room to shower. I put the water on scorching hot, feeling a slight discomfort, trying to discipline myself for the actions I have committed. Turning the water off and stepping out, I found myself in front of the mirror. My wolf flashed her silver eyes that I once thought beautiful, now reminding me of a sleek knife sharp enough to use against an enemy. My white hair was my complex trait and a symbol to all that I was dangerous. My red lips, the same shade of blood. The scars that cover my arm remind me of loss and pain. I stepped away from the mirror and threw on some black pants, a red tank top, and my combat boots. I ran my fingers through my hair, then made my way downstairs and out of the pack house. I had to put my feelings aside for the moment. Getting information from the rogues is essential right now. I took a deep breath before opening the steel door to the cells. The dark passageway held a few candles to light the way. Multiple voices sounded as I neared, but it was one voice that caught my attention. Lander. Chapter 17. Third POV. Her blood ran cold at the sound of the elder's voice, who was followed by the other elders' voices. She knew they had arrived to see and interrogate the rogues. They must have arrived while she was gone on her run. She wiped her sweaty palms on the fabric of her pants, then entered the dimly lit cells. She passed by many cells, seeing the rogues who were slowly withering away. The stench of blood engulfed the room. She walked until Alpha Rushford met her. The others turned to look at the new arrival before turning back to the three rogues. "Who are you working for?" Alpha Rushford questioned. No reply. His fist collided with the rogue's cheek. "What do they want?" He questioned again. No reply. His fist slammed into the rogue's head, causing the rogue to cry out in pain. He clutched his head, trying to stop the room from spinning. Once it did, he wished the room would keep turning. The rogue shoved his two members urgently, looking to the left and pointing. Their eyes widened as they all squished to the corner of the cell, far away from her. The wolves didn't miss the act. Alpha Rushford opened the cell door wider, causing the rogues to squish further into the corner. Alpha Rushford opened his mouth to speak, but was cut off with a shrill from the rogues. "Demon child." The words echoed off the wall, seemingly leaving no effect on the wolves. Until a simple word reached their ears. "No," Alex whispered, disbelief etching her face. All eyes went to her as she shared a look of knowing with Alpha Rushford. She repeated the word over and over, not wanting to believe what this meant. She rushed into the cell, grabbing a rogue by the throat, letting her claws draw blood. "Tell me this isn't true," she pleaded, her eyes filled with fright, her voice slightly trembling. "Demon child has the key. Key belongs to demon." The crazed laughter of the rogue echoes throughout the cell. She threw the rogue to the ground with a significant amount of force, causing the rogue to whimper out. Her hands began pulling on her hair as she walked out of the cell. From her hair, her hands turned into fists, and she started punching the concrete walls. She looked like she was losing control, but she could not stop it. She could not stop herself. "How did I not put this together?" she cried. She knew who their enemy was, an enemy she never wanted to encounter again. Rushford POV. The only thing I could do was stare at my mate. She had such intense feelings and determination. I never knew one could possess so much. Alpha Rushford went to calm her down as the elders looked curiously over my mate, Lander, staring more intently. We managed to get her into my office calmly. Before we could ask her any questions, she sprang from her seat and began to pace. "I can't be here," her eyes wide as a frightened animal. "I have to go." She continued to pace. "Why did he call you demon child?" Harold asked sternly. The simple name made her feet stop. "My mother used to call me the demon's child and herself, the demon," she said, her eyes hollow. "My mother raised me as a rogue. She was one of the most feared rogues out there. Every day, she'd physically harm me until I was close to passing. She eliminated whatever happiness I had," she began to express. "When I was 8, I made a friend who was another rogue. I kept the friendship a secret because I was scared of what my mother would do. I don't know how, but she found out. On July 8th, My mother severely harmed me to the point where I could no longer move. She tied me to a chair, then brought in my rogue friend and defeated her right in front of me. A small, unsettling laugh escaped her mouth, causing my body to shudder involuntarily. The noise was haunting. The tears began to trickle down her face. I had a forced shift that day. She was caught by surprise when I had shifted and fought her. Her body was injured and I heard no pulse. I thought I defeated her. She wrapped her arms around herself, but I guess it's true. You can't defeat a Warzone, especially not the daughter of the Warzone Alpha. Tension and shock filled the air. You can't defeat a Warzone, a phrase that has been ingrained into every wolf, spread throughout our world. A wolf of Warzone blood stood before us, shaken and scared of another Warzone wolf. The Warzone Pack was eliminated 30 years ago, when every pack in the country waged war against them. All pack members are supposed to be gone. The Warzone Pack was potent because it was a direct descendant of Lycans, just as the Power Pack was. The pack consisted of nothing but conflict. You're here. It all makes sense now. You have Warzone blood in you. Lander spoke loudly as he jumped out of his chair. I do, but I am nothing like them, my mate argued, her eyes hollow. Oh, please. You expect us to believe you're not like them. We know what happened on the field with the rogues. You're a genetic anomaly. The room fell silent to Elder Lander's words. The Warzone Pack was called genetic anomalies, a demeaning term. I expected to see my mate shaking with rage, but instead she looked sad and hurt. My wolf stirred within me, not liking all the looks his mate was receiving. A low growl slipped through my teeth, causing Lander to look at me. Something to say, pup? He gritted out. Another growl slipped out, but with more anger. Don't speak of my mate that way. Shit. What have I just done? Chapter 18. Mate? The Elder's voice rang through the office. Probably trying to understand how someone like me would end up with Rushford. Or why he was paired with a mate who is of Warzone blood. You accept her? Do you know the stories of that pack? Lander spoke with derision. Everyone knew the stories of the Warzone Pack. The pack was made up of only Warzone blood. Once a member of the Warzone family found their mate, they would have children, then eliminate their mate. They would then raise their children to do the same. There was to be no outsider allowed into the family, believing that they were above everyone else because they were also direct descendants of Lycans. My blood makes me stronger, faster, and I can heal faster than an alpha. The Warzone Pack eliminated and hunted many wolves without reason. After years, all the packs in America came together to wage a war against the Warzone Pack. It was said there were no survivors, yet here I am. I am aware of the stories, but she is nothing like them. She didn't grow up with the Warzone Pack, she grew up in the Warrior Pack, Rushford growled. Like that matters. We all saw what she truly is on the field, Lander argued. We can focus on me later. Right now we have bigger things to worry about, like my mother, I interrupted. The elders nodded their heads hesitantly, but knew I was right. Right now, our enemy was out there and determined to target me specifically. Chapter 19. The elders got out of the pack as soon as they could. They no longer wanted to be in my presence, fearful that I might become uncontrolled at any moment. Though my wolf side relished in their fear, the rest of me didn't. Right now, I need the elders on my side. Who knows what those old men would do now that they know the truth? Rushford practically shoved me out of his office before I could even bring up the subject of our mating. Jeez. I swear the only thing that makes that man nervous is the idea of a mate. I think it should have been the opposite, since I was in the Warrior Pack, taught to forget the idea of a mate, and yet here I am, wanting to be with the stubborn and ruthless Alpha Rushford stupid bond. I decided to take the day off to stay in my room and figure out what angle Mother Dearest was playing. It made no sense to me why this woman would be looking for me. She never loved me. She never even liked me. And what is the key? Am I the key? Do I own the key? I pulled out all the documents we have on past attacks and posted them on my wall. I grabbed the red string and blue string, connecting them to pictures and documents. I moved away from the wall to get a better look. No one here could figure out her plan, but I have information about her that no one else does. I knew this woman for 8 years, 8 difficult years, but 8 years nonetheless. If anyone could figure out her play, it's me. It's as if I have been staring at the walls for hours until I finally noticed something. A question nagged at my head as I stared at the well-taken photos. Who managed to take pictures of the attack while it was happening? When an attack is happening, my first thought isn't, hey, let me take a photo. Wolves have an instinct to protect the children, women, and elderly, while the men fight. The women would be fearful for their young. They wouldn't take a photo. Children would be too scared even to look, and the elderly could hardly move. That means a guy took it. If it were a guy who took these photos and made them look this clear and friendly, he would have to be calm. Otherwise, his hands would shake, and the picture would come out a bit blurry. I moved to reread the documents, going line by line, reading the same sentence over and over again. The sentence didn't sit well with me. The pack of rogues seemed to be led by a leader, no other information provided. I read the sentence over again. I even read it out loud, sang it, clapped it out in syllables, anything to figure out why it seemed so off to me, but to no avail. I let out a sigh before making my way out of my room and downstairs. I let the sentence repeat in my mind as I opened the fridge to get out the leftovers from dinner. I hadn't realized I hadn't eaten until I saw how dark it was outside. I leaned against the counter, closing my eyes and rubbing my temples, letting a deep breath out. Goddess, I'm stressed out. The microwave dinged, signaling that my food was ready. I didn't make a move for it, still repeating the sentence in my head. Aren't you going to open that? The husky voice snapped me out of my thoughts. My eyes snapped open and connected with the man who rushed me out of his office. I sighed, then went to open the microwave and placed the plate on the countertop. I grabbed a fork and began eating the chicken pieces. I can't find it, I sighed. Find what? The link. I'm stuck. I can't find out what that woman is going to do next. That's not your fault. He moved closer to me, heat prickling at my skin. It is. I should have made sure she was defeated before I ran off. I shoved another piece of chicken into my mouth. You were a child. I interrupted, a child who knew better. I knew how ruthless she was. Now she's stronger and is commanding rogues. She's even more dangerous. You couldn't have guessed that she would be alive, or that she would have a group of rogues following her, attacking for her. But I should have known. Alex. I interrupted again. Wait, what did you just say? You couldn't have known. No, not that. The part about the rogues. The group of rogues attacking for. A group. I interrupted him again as he let out an annoyed sigh. Rushford, I know why that sentence kept bothering me, I said as I ran up the stairs with my mate following behind. I pushed open the door and ran to the wall of documents and photos, while pulling Rushford beside me. I pointed to the photo of rogues. The document says the pack of rogues. No one has called them a pack. We didn't even know they had so many until they attacked our pack. Every other pack was attacked with a small group of 8 or 9. Then I moved to rip the picture off the wall, shoving it into Rushford's face. Look at the picture. It's perfect, almost like someone knew an attack was going to happen, and look at the angle. The photo was taken above and away from the fight. Are you saying what I think you're saying? He questioned. I nodded. There's a traitor. Chapter 20. I practically threw the phone at Rushford to make the call to the Red Moon Pack about the possible traitor. My body was shivering in readiness as I finally found a piece of the puzzle. The puzzle is not complete yet, but it will be. I heard as he held the phone to his ear, speaking to Alpha Kane about the possible traitor in his pack. He spoke loudly a couple of times, but soon stopped and said he would investigate. That was all we needed to hear. Do you think he'll find the traitor? I asked. Alpha Kane is a smart man. I'm sure he'll figure it out within the week. I smiled at that, knowing that we've possibly taken down one of my mother's contacts. I needed some good news after everything about my past came out. My smile soon turned into a frown as a new thought came rushing in. What if my mother retaliates? What if she causes more harm? What if she attacks my pack again? What if she attacks Rushford? Stop thinking so much. That's my job, Rushford attempted at a joke. I let a little chuckle out at his attempt, but as Beta, it's also my job, I joked back. Suddenly, the room went still at my attempt to clear the tension. Maybe it was too soon? We are the Luna, my wolf growled. Right. We should get some sleep and talk tomorrow, I said as I walked to the door. A simple grunt was all I needed to exit the room. "Alexandra, you're so beautiful," a man spoke affectionately to the baby in his arms. He was a rather large man with a bulky frame, almost as big as Rushford. He sat down in a rocking chair with the baby in his arms, humming an old tune to her. I remember humming that tune myself. I used to do it to calm myself down after my mother would physically discipline me. The scene then changed to a black-haired boy running around with another little boy with white blonde hair, like mine. I had a heavy feeling in my gut as I watched the boys run and play. Was this my family? A familiar white blonde-haired woman entered the scene. Her eyes are different. They seem happy. The scene changes again to the black-haired man and my mother fighting. They're yelling at each other as the black-haired little boy is shaking in fear and his brother is crying uncontrollably. Then the unexpected happens. A knife is forced into the black-haired man's stomach. It's as if I could feel his pain. Screaming. That's what I heard when I woke up to the earth-shattering screech. I tried to jump out of bed and find where it came from, but my legs wobbled. My hands and my whole body were shaking and I felt weak. My knees soon came in contact with the wooden floor, as did the palms of my hands. I hadn't felt this weak since living with my mother. My bedroom door slammed open, revealing a half-clothed Rushford. His eyes searched the room until they landed on my crouched form. His arms came around me, pulling me up and onto the bed in a sitting position. He searched my body for any injury, but soon realized I was fine. "Why did you scream?" His tone showed the alpha in him. "I was having a nightmare." "I'm sorry, I didn't realize I had yelled," my voice trembling. "Why were you on the floor then?" he questioned. I was a bit shaken from the dream. My legs gave out. "I'm fine now, you can go." I expected him to leave, but he surprised me by pulling me into his chest. I let my arms wrap around his toned body, feeling secure and safe. I don't know if Rushford and I would ever be openly loving mates, but for now, I would take whatever I could get. With my mother alive, I needed him around. The bond makes me feel secure, like no harm could come to me, like my mother will not be able to hurt me again. At this moment, I need that reassurance. I need him. Perhaps this is why mates were created? Chapter 21. Days went by as we prepared for the upcoming war with my mother. Border Patrol has been reinforced, fighters were being trained harshly by me, and I continued to have nightmares. The nightmares plagued my sleep to the point where I no longer wished to sleep. However, Rushford came into my room every night, making sure I slept. His presence brought me a sense of security and comfort. At first, he would lie there, not speaking a word. An awkward silence would fill the room, but as the days went by, everything changed. He would ramble about things that happened to him when he was younger, letting me fall asleep to his soothing voice or rake his hand through my hair, lulling me to sleep. I no longer screamed myself awake, only gasped as if the air was taken out of me, but it was progress. In the past few nights, I learned that Rushford is very close to his parents and likes to have dinner with them every Sunday. When he was a teen, his main hobby was skateboarding. He told me he had long hair and bangs to go with his skater look. Goddess, I would pay to see that. Our relationship is slowly growing, which scares me. I was taught that mates were a weakness, yet being around him makes me feel stronger and safer. My mind constantly fought with me over the way I felt about Rushford. Samadraka saw my internal battle and told me it was okay to forget our values, to forget everything ingrained in our heads. I promised to try, but the bond isn't my #1 priority right now. I will let our relationship grow naturally. If anything develops, then I will accept it. After the war, if our relationship grows, I shall be named Luna of this pack. Alpha Samadraka has agreed to let Rushford and me take over. Before all of this had happened, Samadraka had chosen me to be the alpha of the warrior pack when he was to step down. It all seemed to fall into place, like the moon goddess knew this would all happen. The moon goddess works in mysterious ways, my wolf acknowledges. Tomorrow, I am going to have dinner with Rushford's parents. Rushford said that meeting the parents would be the first step in taking our bond to the next level. I agreed even though part of me didn't care to meet his parents. Though the thought of meeting the people who made Rushford made me nervous, and I usually don't get nervous. Though I suppose meeting my mate's parents for the first time is somewhat nerve-wracking, especially with my current state. If I wasn't training the fighters, I was on patrol or working on more documents. Alpha Kane found the traitor in his pack almost instantly. However, no matter how much the traitor was questioned, he didn't talk and was eliminated. We were right back at square one. That didn't make anyone happy. So, here I am, snuggling into the arms of my mate, until he wakes up. In my eyes, he was perfection. I loved his raven black hair. It went well with his electric blue eyes. His jaw is sharp with some stubble, making him look even more handsome. If that's even possible. I wondered if we had a child, whether it would have his raven hair or my snow-white hair. Would he or she have my green eyes or his blue? The only thing I knew for sure was that they would be beautiful. A focused thought runs up my spine at my thinking, a child? Could I actually have a future with this man? No, that's absurd. Staring at someone sleeping is considered inappropriate, a husky voice sounded. I was gazing, not staring, I defended. His hand reaches out to cut my cheek. I like it when you blush. At his comment, my face grew hot. Come on, we have work to do. He lifted from the bed, then proceeded to look for clothes. I could feel my wolf push forward as he changed out of a t-shirt, putting his physique on display. Next thing I knew, he had a blue dressy shirt on. My wolf growled in my head as his hands reached for the hem of his basketball shorts, about to pull them down, but suddenly stopped. My eyebrows scrunch in confusion as an exasperated sigh leaves my mouth. The sound of loud laughter causes me to look up into my mate's eyes. Playful, he chuckled. My wolf retreats to the back of my mind, trying to hide away from her embarrassment. I hid underneath the covers, trying to control the emotions running through me. The mate bond is a strange thing. At times, I was utterly captivated by Rushford. At other times, I wanted to hide away from it all. To not feel the overwhelming feeling that messes with my mind. The day went by smoothly with no new threats to our pack. Alpha Kane had called to talk to Rushford about the upcoming war, saying he wanted to be a part of it. Surprisingly, Alpha Kane was not the only one who wanted to join. Every pack that was attacked, and those who wanted to be rid of the threat, offered to help. It was a kind and noble gesture, but it was one we had to deny. Bringing other packs into this conflict would only reveal my mother's identity, along with my own. I do not have the elders on my side to help soothe the nerves of neighboring packs of my existence, so it is better to leave my identity as Alex the Warrior. However, with their respectful declining help, we gained the attention of the Power Pack. And that was not good. Chapter 22. Chapter 22. On the inside, I was shaking with nerves, but to Rushford's family, I looked calm and collected. I sat with my back straight in the chair, carefully choosing my words. Rushford probably assumed that my warrior side was active, and that's why I was acting like this. Lie. I'm acting like this because I didn't want Rushford's family to have anything against me. So many people already don't like me. I couldn't have my own mate's family hate me as well. I kept conversations polite and straightforward, with many please and thank you exchanges. The plate of steak and potatoes arrived in front of me. With a lift of the fork and steak knife, I dug in with grace. Goddess, I feel like I'm at a tea party with all these manners. Perhaps I should drink my glass of water with my pinky up. The sound of my low chuckle brought the attention of the group before me. Is something humorous, dear? Rushford's mother, Eleanor, said with elegance. I cleared my throat. No, ma'am. Just an old memory, I lied. Do tell us, Alex. We would love to hear a story from you, his father, Kane said. Damn. I just screwed myself. What the hell was I going to say? I have no humorous memories. I don't even have happy memories. It took me a second to think of anything relatively good. I cleared my throat again, well. Oh. A smile grew on my face. This one time my mother chased me around the house, trying to injure me with her favorite knife, but she ended up slipping on the small rug in the living room and injured herself in the leg. My laughter boomed across the dinner table. I had to wipe a few tears away from laughing so hard. I would enjoy seeing that again, I added. As soon as my laughter died down, I saw the look of horror on my mate's family's faces. To say this was awkward was an understatement. I grabbed my glass of water and chugged it down. Once again, I cleared my throat. hoping it would clear away the awkwardness. "Dear, did you say your mother tried to harm you?" Eleanor asked hesitantly. I nodded slowly. "Oh, that had to be the worst dinner of my life, and I've been in difficult situations before, so that was saying a lot. My head is currently hiding under my blankets, trying to push the embarrassment away, though I don't think anything could make this feeling go away." All night, I had been very meticulous about my words, and the moment I finally relaxed a little, I made everything silent and awkward. It's at these moments that I wonder if my mother was right about me. Was I truly unwanted? A troublesome individual? It wasn't that bad. Rushford tugged the blanket off, an awkward smile gracing his face. I stared at him blankly. "Okay, it was, but my mother said she really likes you." He grabbed my hand. "Don't worry about it. We'll have plenty more dinners where you can show them how lucky we are to have you." He kissed my nose, making me react with a small laugh. That's right, a small laugh. The determined, fighting warrior just reacted with a sound like that. "This is strange. I'm going to be sick." "In love," my wolf added. He continued to give me little kisses, some on my nose, some on my forehead, cheeks, and finally, my jaw. I loved being showered in affection, but only by him. His lips soon went to kiss down my neck, bringing me a new sensation. His mouth touched the area that would bear his mark. His behavior had changed ever since that day he told the elders that we were mates. At times, he becomes distant, but it's improving. I knew our relationship was getting better and more intimate, but I still didn't fully trust him yet. I knew why I chose to embrace the bond. I am tired of fighting off this constant appeal he has over me. I want to be loved, even if it lasts for a moment, but what was his reason? Why would he choose to give in to the mate bond when I know something is holding him back? I can see it in the way he looks away when I try to get to know him. I pushed on his chest lightly, signaling for him to stop his advances. "I'm not ready yet," I whispered out. He pushed himself away from me with a grunt. I knew he was probably upset, probably even felt rejected, but I just wasn't there yet. This relationship was new and still growing. If he were to mark me, there would be no turning back. I would be trapped in a bond, unable to leave. Rushford. No, he slammed the bedroom door. Dramatic individual. Hi, I chose to embrace the bond. I am tired of fighting off this constant appeal he has over me. I want to be loved, even if it lasts for a moment, but what was his reason? Why would he choose to give in to the mate bond when I know something is holding him back? I can see it in the way he looks away when I try to get to know him. I pushed on his chest lightly, signaling for him to stop his advances. "I'm not ready yet," I whispered out. He pushed himself away from me with a grunt. I knew he was probably upset, probably even felt rejected, but I just wasn't there yet. This relationship was new and still growing. If he were to mark me, there would be no turning back. I would be trapped in a bond, unable to leave. Rushford. No, he slammed the bedroom door. Dramatic individual. Chapter 23. Rushford didn't sleep in the room last night. I assumed that he was still upset over my rejection. Sleep didn't come to me last night. I tossed and turned, silently begging for Rushford to return to my side and hug me until I fell asleep, but that didn't happen. I woke up and went to patrol, taking over for Stephen. Stephen told me he would take the night shifts because Rushford asked him to switch with me so we could spend our nights together. I thought it was caring of him to switch my shift with Stephen so we could be together. It made my feelings for him grow. He was a cold, rude individual, but I did care for that person, even if I didn't want to admit it. Patrolling wasn't anything interesting. It was rather dull. I walk around the border, checking on the other wolves on patrol, making sure everyone is alive and well, and making sure no rogues pass. I start my patrolling on the east, then move to the west. My boots pounded against the ground, making my rounds. Branches, leaves, and flowers crunched as my boots stomped all over them. I was slightly angry that Rushford was upset because I wasn't ready to do more with him, though I understood his feelings. Most mates sleep with each other when they first meet, but Rushford and I were not those types of mates. I sometimes wish our meeting had been like a fairy tale. The girl and the guy meet, fall in love, and then have a family. A simple life. That's all I have ever wanted, but I knew I was meant for something bigger than that. Sometimes I feel as if the moon goddess is guiding me to my fate. She steers me in the right direction, knowing how this will all play out. All I can do is trust that she has planned a simple life for me after this is all over. Alex. A voice interrupted my thoughts. I turned to find one of the patrol wolves running towards me. I believe his name is Jesse. Beta Alex, there is an unusual smell near the west side border. He rushed out. I nodded, then followed the wolf. As we came closer to the west border, the smell of iron and burnt wood filled my nose. The scent seemed familiar, but I couldn't place it. That's odd, I always remember a smell. I remember, my wolf spoke softly before retreating to the back of my mind. Have you seen anything unusual or anything that stands out? I asked the patrol wolves, disregarding my wolf's strange behavior. There are some tracks over here, Ryland, another patrol wolf called. Looking down at the tracks, it was hard to identify who it was. It was tracks of a person, nothing unusual about that. Though, how did someone manage to get close to our border? Why does that smell familiar? Alpha Samadraka suddenly appeared beside me. Rushford followed closely behind him, making a face at the stench. That's offensive, he spat. I crouched low, putting my hands over the tracks, trying to remember where I knew this from. I put my nose to the ground, inhaling as much as I could, when the sound of a crow reached my ears. I stood up, seeing the crow stare at me from the tree branch right in front of me. It was as if everything clicked together in that moment. Shoot! Everyone back now! I exclaimed. Murmurs of confusion went around. Before anyone could move away, the sickly pale, white-haired man appeared in front of us. A determined smirk etched onto his face. Sister, it's been a long time. Chapter 24. The small cottage sat at the center of the woods, hidden from the humans. The small girl with white pigtails sat silently on the kitchen chair, while the woman with frizzy white hair stared at her son. The only people who knew of her son were the woman and the little girl. Her son was her prized possession, who was kept in a pack nearby for his safety. The boy with white hair cared for his half-sister, but knew it was a weakness to show how much he cared for her. Instead, he left her alone to fend off their relentless mother. On the little girl's 8th birthday, everything changed. Her friend was just defeated in front of her, and she had just shifted into her wolf and fought her mother. She sat covered in blood, crying for the loss of her innocence. Her half-brother came to her like a guiding figure sent from the moon goddess. He was younger than her, but mentally, he was an old man. The alpha of his pack had been mentoring him since he arrived, and this was the perfect time to put all that knowledge into helping his sister. He cleaned her up with a slightly dirty rag and told her of a pack that would accept her and love her. The moon goddess came to him and showed him the way. He was told that his sister was to fulfill her destiny. The boy could not argue with his creator and felt a Rushford of energy flow through him. He apologized for not helping his sister, but he was scared to defy his mother, scared that he, too, would become a victim of physical discipline. He acquired a new dress for her from one of the young she-wolves in his pack, then tried to fix her hair, and led her to the warrior pack. His feet moved automatically as the goddess guided him through the trees. He dropped her off, saying he'd be back to visit. They were the only family they had. The young boy kept his promise and visited his sister every week. He would sneak out of his pack and see his sister. She told him of how well she was treated. For once, she was happy. Years passed by, and the boy and the girl continued to meet. At the age of 11, her half-brother was found by a vampire near the warrior pack. The vampire attacked the boy, severely injuring him. If it weren't for his half-sister and her new pack, he'd be gone. They told the alpha who they were to each other. Knowing they were family, he allowed the boy to visit his sister. It wasn't until a month later that the boy attacked his sister. He had been turned into a vampire during his near-death experience. He never once desired the blood of his sister, but having not fed in a while made him nervous. He lunged for his sister, almost defeating her. Luckily, the alpha had taught her a few moves to protect herself. This time, it was the little girl who was nearly found gravely injured. They banished the little boy from coming near his sister again, for she feared her brother. Since then, on every birthday, the little girl received an unknown gift, followed by a crow. It was him, and now he was present. Chapter 25. Sister, it's been a long time. My body grew stiff as I heard his raspy, sinister voice. It felt as if a bucket of water had splashed on me. I had not heard from my brother in years. He had said he was leaving me alone, and yet, here he is. What are you? Rushford inquired, stepping in front of me. I would have thought the motion sweet as if he wanted to protect me, but my entire focus stood on my brother. I'm her brother, Walkley replied with a smirk, casually leaning against the tree. My eyes were glued to his like a never-ending staring match. His eyes always showed his intentions. The dead black eyes moved slightly to the left, then back to mine. I could feel an urgency radiating from his stance. What could be so urgent that he needed to find me? Why are you here, Walkley? I found my voice. Can't I visit my big sister? He feigned innocence. I walked forward and grabbed his hand. Are you working for her? I asked slowly. This was the only logical explanation. He had to know she was alive. His eyebrows scrunched in confusion. Working for who? I let go of his hand at his genuine tone. He didn't know. I turned to Samadraka and Rushford. I need to speak with my brother in private. Rushford grunted, while Samadraka agreed hesitantly. The pair of alphas led my brother and me to Rushford's office. I could already hear the whispers going around the pack of the newcomer. I knew that his scent was different from the rest. I was only 11 when my brother attacked me, though I know it was because he was a new vampire, with urges he could not control yet. It pained me that at the time, I couldn't see things so clearly. I let Samadraka banish him from ever seeing me again, but every birthday, he'd leave me a gift at the border, followed by a crow. The crow was my brother's trademark. As soon as it appeared, I knew it could only be one person. We arrived at the office, only to have Rushford plop himself onto his chair, waiting for us to talk. Samadraka moved into one of the chairs as well. I understood why they sat down. This is their pack. They need to be here. I directed Walkley into a chair beside mine. Why are you here, Walkley? I asked. He looked from Samadraka to me. My pack kicked me out. He responded solemnly. I saw the slight pain flicker through his eyes. I nodded for him to continue. I was mated to a girl from the pack, the beta's daughter. The pack was already weary with a vampire within its pack, but they left it alone because I had been there since I was a pup. However, they didn't accept a pack wolf being mated to a vampire. They hurt her, Alex. His eyes began to turn a vibrant red color. I have nowhere else to go. I went to find you, but you were gone. Took me a month to track you down. He gave me a sad smile. I'm sorry, Walkley. I clutched his hand in mine, his eyes slowly turning back to a dark abyss. Tell him, my wolf pushes. With a breath in, I let the words spill out. I know the last thing you want to hear is more bad news, but I have to tell you if you're not being protected by the pack anymore. I looked into his eyes. She's alive. Mom's alive, Walkley. That's impossible. He stood up with a snarl, causing Rushford and Samadraka to tense. I saw her body. Spit flew from his mouth. I didn't cut deep enough, I explain. She's coming after me, Walkley. I let my fear slip through, causing my voice to falter. He pulled me into a hug. I won't let her hurt you, Alex. Not again. We sat there for a while, catching each other up on our lives. I told him of finding my mate, while he told me of the good times he spent with his mate before she passed. It pained me to know that his mate was killed, simply because he was not a wolf. The only thing that keeps me optimistic is the fact that my brother might have a beloved, since he is also a vampire. My brother practically commanded that he be allowed to live here to protect me and, when the time comes, stop our mother. Rushford yelled and argued, but soon accepted his request. Rushford knew that having my brother on our side was an advantage. Sure, I had Warzone blood in me, making me stronger and faster than everyone else, but my mother and I were evenly matched. With Walkley by my side, I had an advantage. He has Warzone blood, making him a stronger and faster vampire. His speed is twice as fast as mine. I enjoyed my brother's presence as we ate dinner. Rushford announced to the pack who our newcomer was. The scent of fear surrounded us as we ate, but no one commented on the arrival of a vampire. I spent dinner having a colorful conversation with my brother. He made me laugh and almost choke on my food. It was nice having him around. He made me feel safe. However, I fear for his safety. Now that he is by my side, I am scared of what our mother would do to him. To her, it would seem as if he betrayed her. I would never want Walkley to experience what I did. I prayed to the moon goddess that my mother would leave us alone, but I knew that was too much to ask. Chapter 26. 2 weeks later. Walkley has made himself quite comfortable around here. I found it especially amusing when he and Rushford would talk. Walkley has this way of annoying Rushford to no end. I may never have met my father, nor my 3 brothers my mother spoke of, but at least I had Walkley. His being from some random wolf did not affect me. In my eyes, he is my true brother, my only family. When I wasn't with Walkley, I was training the fighters. I saw the mistakes when the rogues attacked. We trained for 6 hours a day every day. We have no time to waste. This upcoming battle will be rough and won't end until one pack is completely stopped. Currently, I am carving random designs into the bedside table with my knife as Rushford showers. I was stuck in a battle between my heart and my mind. My mind said to focus on the war that's coming. My heart tells me I can focus on the war and my mate and myself, but what if my heart is wrong? What if I made a move forward with Rushford and the universe decided to punish me again? I could not take any more hurt. I had to adjust coming into this pack. I never had anything or anyone to live or care for before. I was the first one thrown into battle, not fearing if I would perish. I found a dark sense of satisfaction with the conflict that ensued. I knew I could no longer be that way. I saw the horror in the eyes of the pack when they saw what I had done. I used to live in fear of others, but now it upsets me. This is going to be my pack soon. I couldn't be the conflict-driven Luna. I need to live for Rushford and for our future. The creak of the door pulled me from my internal battle. Just seeing my handsome mate gave me comfort. He was difficult at times, but I knew he loved me. I could see it in his eyes. His hulking figure stood in front of me. "Are you okay?" He kissed my forehead. I gave a smile. "Yes, just overthinking as usual." "Come on." He moved us into the bed, snuggling together, enjoying the silence. Soon, there would be no silence, only chaos. We needed to savor the quiet before it was gone. Our fingers intertwined as I lay my head on his chest, listening to his beating heart. My eyes began to close as his heart lulled me to sleep. Fire. My body felt as if it was engulfed in flames, as if my brain was being melted. My scream echoed through the room, followed by my body thrashing about. I fought to pry my eyes open, only to find Rushford carrying me out of bed. The blaring red flames engulfed our room, doing their dangerous dance. My eyes quickly scan over Rushford, finding no burns on him. I let a sigh of relief out as he carries me to the balcony. My eyes begin to wander over my arms, finding a few burns. Soon, my body is weightless. With a thud, we reach the ground. I silently applaud Rushford for his heroics. He gently places me on the ground. I need to get the rest out. "Stay here," he commands. Usually, I would argue and run into the fire to help, but my body goes weak, my mind grows hazy, and my vision blurs. I feel useless as my eyes start to close on the fiery scene in front of me. "Alexandra!" The white-haired woman screamed. She chased the small, white-haired girl with pigtails, with a wooden stick in one hand and a look of severity on her face. The little girl tries to push her feet to run faster, as the small boy witnesses from a distance. He silently hopes that the white-haired woman will trip so the little girl has a better chance of getting away, but, as usual, things do not go the way he wishes. After the white-haired woman caught the little girl and gave her a couple of hits with the wooden stick, it was time for dinner. The little girl ate her small, stale piece of bread on the floor as her brother and mother ate spaghetti like civilized people. Once dinner was over, the white-haired woman had a new game to play with the little girl. "Alexandra, come here," she called. The little girl came into the small living room and stood in front of her mother, waiting for whatever game she had come up with. "Let's play firefighter." The woman explained the rules, and soon the little girl complied. Her little hands shook as tears crept out while she turned all of the stove burners on. She takes a rod, shoving it near the flame, standing there for what seems like an hour, letting the rod get warm. She hands the rod to the white-haired woman, and the game begins. I'll give you a 5-second head start. Run. For weeks after, this was the new game they played. It was also when the little girl realized that fire was dangerous. It could keep you warm and heat your food, but in the wrong hands, it could cause difficulty and damage. Chapter 27. Last night was unexpected and disastrous. I had woken up in the Pack hospital a couple of hours ago, with Rushford telling me our pack had been attacked. I wondered why I felt so weak, only to find out that the device planted in the house contained silver. How they turned silver into an explosive reminded me of the one I had made years ago. With the smoke and silver inhalation, it made sense why I felt so weak. Rushford had left our room before the explosion. Stephen called him because a group of invaders was at the border. The slight distraction was all they needed to attack. I did wonder how they planted the device without me hearing it, but I knew the answer. I am getting too comfortable here. Luckily, many Pack members didn't get hurt, since the attack happened on the Alpha's floor. Their main goal was to take me out, and they failed. To say I was angry was an understatement. The nurse had to sedate me because I was practically ripping the walls off my hospital room. Samadraka knew better than to tell me that everything was fine, like the other wolves had tried. He knew it was not okay that I had let myself get too comfortable and leave myself vulnerable to an attack. All this week, I had been grilling the wolves about the oncoming battle when I had been the one who wasn't prepared or focused. Perhaps this is my answer. Maybe I am not meant to think with my heart, since it only leads me to difficulty. I was finally allowed to leave 30 minutes ago. Currently, I am pacing around Rushford's office, trying to think of anything. Alex. I turned to look at Rushford. No, I replied, already knowing what he was going to say. He let out a tired sigh. You need to rest. He was right, but I couldn't rest. Not after we were just attacked. Not when I could have protected my pack from this. I shook my head no and continued to pace around the office. I was trying to solve a puzzle, my mother's puzzle. I am trying to find the missing pieces to understand her plan, but I can't seem to fill in the gaps. And that's when it hit me, this isn't a puzzle. My mother is an intelligent woman. She wouldn't be making a puzzle, she would be playing chess, calculating her next 5 moves, and predicting my next one. I have been losing this game because I assumed it was about finding the missing clues and gathering information. Instead, I should be getting into her head. Why would she send someone to plant a device? She would want to take my life herself, with her own hands. She knew the device wouldn't kill me, so why? Was this the first attack before the war? Was this a warning? Or was this a distraction? I stopped in place Rushford. He turned to look at me. What? What if this was a distraction? She wants to be the one to defeat me, not an explosion. I babbled. So if she wants to defeat me, then why send the device? Why cause the distraction? I looked like a madwoman, but I continued to express my thoughts out loud. Are we missing anything? What? Rushford asked, obviously baffled by my ranting. That's why I would distract someone. If I needed to steal something, maybe raid a room, or take something of importance. I concluded. Josh, Henry, and Ryan, sweep the floors of the Alpha floor for anything missing. Do the same to the other rooms below, Rushford mind-linked. We'll know soon. I let out a breath, content that maybe we were on the right track. My feet continued to pace around the room as the wolves searched. Once the houses were swept, Josh came to inform us that nothing was missing. Great. Back to square one. I was so sure that she would use the device as a distraction. I went to sit on Rushford's lap, needing his touch to comfort me as my thoughts began to drown me. I snuggled into his chest while he played with my hair, allowing his heartbeat to lull me to sleep. The white-haired little girl with pigtails ran around the tree, giggling with glee as the white-haired boy chased her. They were playing tag. The game wouldn't last long. The white-haired woman would be back soon, and so would the difficult times. The little girl and boy played, laughed, and tackled each other. You can't get me, Waki. The little girl giggled. The little boy pushed his legs even faster to catch his sister. It was almost impossible to catch her. She was a fast one. He only grabbed her when she let him. The only person he knew who could see her was their mother. The kids continued to play, running through the vibrant blue flowers, crunching orange leaves beneath them and the red sky above them. I woke with a start, scaring Rushford. I jump off his lap, landing on my feet, ready to run. "Alex, what's going up, Dash?" I ran out of the office and down the stairs. I pushed my feet to go faster, running down the halls erratically. I counted the doors going down the hallway, stopping at the 15th door. I waited a moment, hearing Rushford's footsteps nearing. I waited for him to be by my side before pushing the door open. I grabbed onto his hand, confusion etched onto his face, but he didn't speak. I turned the doorknob and pushed the door open. He wasn't here. I lifted the mattress, checked behind the shower curtain in the bathroom, but I knew I wouldn't find him. The tears came flooding down my face as my fear was becoming a reality. Rushford pulled me into his arms, crashing to the ground as my legs could no longer hold me up. The heaviness set into my heart, knowing I would never see him again. She took him. She took Walkley. Chapter 28. I felt the string snap as an ache came over my heart. I had always heard the stories of the excruciating pain that consumes a wolf once their mate dies, but none have ever spoken about the broken heart you experience when you feel the very essence of a loved one vanish. That's what it felt like, emptiness. My brother and I had always had this strange connection. At times, I would feel what he was feeling, and vice versa. I think that's why we were both so good at telling when the other was lying. I felt the ping in my heart as the salty river streamed from my eyes. It was a sign that he was gone. Many tried to tell me what I felt was not real, or that it had no connection to him, but I knew it did. He is gone. Our birth-giver had hurt him, and would soon come to hurt me as well. I spent the last week mourning for my brother, locked up in my room. Sure, we had an imperfect relationship, but that did not mean I didn't love my brother. He was my only family. I had a small burial for him, with a few pack members who attended to see his empty casket being put into the ground. Rushford tried to stop me from doing the funeral, claiming once again that the sharp pain in my heart was not a sign that he was gone. But I know she took him. I know her too well. I knew I couldn't let myself go down the road of darkness. After I cried out all my tears and punched the walls, I put on the warrior facade. The warrior facade was something I learned at a young age. It kept me from breaking down after I saw so much death and destruction. I knew I needed to be strong as the war was almost here. The warrior part of me made a point that we no longer had an advantage because my brother was now gone. It hurt me even to think that way, as my thoughts should be about his passing and the good times we had, not about strategy and the war. I have been reviewing battle strategies with Rushford and Samadraka all day, but every plan ended the same. We would have to fight. Many of our fighters would have to perish for us to win the battle, which I already knew. Our warriors knew that as soon as they joined the warrior pack. Even though they knew the possibility of death, I still didn't want to lose any of them. They were my family when I no longer had Walkley. They taught me how to protect myself, my pack, and myself. I still remember those days when Samadraka taught me how to bake. Every Sunday, we spent in the kitchen trying to make a red velvet cake successfully. I let out a small laugh as I remembered how disappointing it tasted the first time we made it. I couldn't imagine what would happen if Samadraka were to perish in the war. "Come here," Rushford patted the space next to him on the bed. I followed what he said and sat next to him. He was leaning against the headboard when he pulled me into his lap. He played with my hair as he whispered endless things into my ear. He talked about everything and anything. His hands soon found their way to my shoulders and began to massage them. "You're very tense." He continued to massage my shoulders, then moved to my back. Content size flew out of my mouth as he got rid of the knots in my back and shoulders. After the massage, he pulled me back into his lap. "I was 17 when I became Alpha," he started. "My father wasn't fit to be Alpha anymore. He and my mother were going through a rough patch, and he began to take his anger out on the pack members. It was also the first time I'd been hit by him." My eyes grew wide as he revealed that his father had hit him. I wanted to turn around and face him, but he kept me on his lap, unable to move. After he hit me, my mother was furious. She threatened to reject my father if he ever did that again. He never hit me again, but one day, he ended up causing a pack member's death. He said that the pack member, Eva, kept bothering him, and in a moment of bad judgment, he ended her life. I challenged him for the alpha position the next day. Turns out, the stress of being alpha was what got to him. Now he's happy and content at my mother's side, with no responsibility. Why did you tell me this story? I asked. He turned me so I was straddling him. I know so much about you, but you know nothing about me. It's only fair you know one of the secrets, since yours seem to be popping up everywhere. I let out a chuckle. It was true. So much of my past has been revealed without me wanting it to. He moved a piece of my hair from my face. You're so beautiful. I don't know what I did to deserve you. He gave me a peck that soon turned into a passionate kiss. Goddess, I don't think I'll ever get tired of feeling his soft lips on mine. The kiss turned more intimate, and suddenly our clothes were gone. I knew what was coming, and I accepted it. It was like a movie. The way I was placed onto the bed, my body shivering with excitement as Rushford moved over me. His dark eyes pierced mine as his hand gently began to take off my top. It was all so fast, yet so slow. It wasn't long before my pants and top were on the floor, only a pair of white undergarments remained intact. His eyes roam unapologetically as small appreciative sounds leave his full lips. Beautiful, he whispered into my neck as he began to kiss and explore my skin. His tongue and lips explore every area, moving from my neck to my stomach to my thighs. He stops a moment as he stares straight at my white undergarment, fingers slowly slipping the fabric away, so pure, he murmurs into my thigh. My breaths come out faster as the material is no longer in his way, his mouth claiming the area that was covered a mere second ago. My hands shoot into his hair, pulling him closer, silently asking for him to continue his attention. I could not stop the sounds that escaped my lips as his mouth worked its magic, slowly bringing me higher and higher. Oh, goodness! I feel him smirk as my excitement shows on his face. Rushford begins to kiss me again, this time moving upward until he reaches his destination. He removes the bra, freeing my breasts for his attention. His mouth attaches to one of my breasts as his hand gently touches the other. My skin reacts instantly as another sensation begins to fill me. We're not done yet, kitten, his raspy voice echoes in my ears. My body is flipped onto my stomach, my backside slightly raised, and then a strong feeling fills me. Rushford is intense as he enters me, moving faster and faster as sounds leave his mouth. I let the joyous sounds leave freely from my lips, letting Rushford know how good he makes me feel. Letting him know, only he can make me feel this way. After what seemed like a long time of intimacy, Rushford pulled me into his arms and kissed me gently goodnight. My heart felt full. Never in my life had I felt more complete than I do now. But even in this content bliss, I knew it was the calm before the storm. Chapter 29. Third POV. The content sigh flew from Alex's mouth as she snuggled into her mate. The pair were giddy after their night of passion. Rushford ran his fingers through his mate's hair as he thought of how lucky he was to have been paired with the white-haired beauty. He began to whisper intimate things into his mate's ears, causing her to giggle like a child. He then moved to the valley between her breasts, softly kissing as his mate shivered in anticipation. The morning was spent recreating what had happened last night, but in the shower. Alex has never been so happy in her life. The pair then changed and moved downstairs into the kitchen, where a group stood, staring smugly at them. The whole house heard what occurred last night between their Alpha and future Luna. Many of the pack members were ecstatic to see such a change in their usual cold-hearted Alpha and future Luna. Breakfast was filled with laughter and joy, a complete 180 from the usual tense and silent dining. In that moment, it was as if there were no worries. However, the pessimistic, white-haired beauty knew it wouldn't last. She knew if she were happy, something difficult would follow. Her childhood led her to believe that her happiness would always be followed by tragedy. As she ate her pancakes and held hands with her mate, she couldn't stop the negative thoughts from attacking her mind. Alpha Rushford was content having his mate by his side. He enjoyed seeing her laugh and smile, for it was a rare sight and a beautiful one. His mind replayed the intimate moments they shared last night, and his inner wolf growled with excitement at their mating. He had longed for a mate since childhood, but at 15, he fell in love with a young girl who was not his mate. Knowing he would have a mate didn't change the fact that he fell completely for the she-wolf. At the age of 17, the girl broke his heart. She never loved him, only wanted to make him fall for her, for his soon-to-be title. He was angry at himself for letting another girl touch him who wasn't his mate, but he was young and reckless. Alpha Rushford felt ashamed for trying to keep his mate at arm's length in the beginning. It wasn't her fault he was scared to love again. She was his mate. She would never hurt him. The clanging of forks and spoons on plates was interrupted by a howl. A howl of a battle cry. The table soon reverted to the usual tense environment. The wolves jumped from their chairs and ran towards the field. Rogues stood at the border, baring their rotting teeth. Front and center of the pack of rogues stood the white-haired woman who plagued the dreams of Alexandra. Warriors and fighters soon stood behind their Alpha and future Luna. The stench of death wafted through the thick, hot air. The white-haired woman moved forward, holding something in her hand. As she got closer, the stench of death did as well. Standing a foot away from her daughter, she gave a mock bow and threw the pike she was holding in front of Alexandra. Alex tried to refuse her eyes from looking down, but they seemed to move on their own accord. The head of the white-haired boy was stuck on the pike. It took everything she had in her not to show how much her mother affected her. Yet, one tear slipped from her eye, causing the white-haired woman to smile. Demon Child and the Demon. Together again. Chapter 30. Third POV. The two white-haired women stared at one another. One had a shimmer of glee, and the other was red with rage. The mother of Alexandra began to walk backwards as she cackled about the white-haired boy's passing. Once the old white-haired woman was 2 feet in front of her army of rogues, the actual battle began. With a snap of her fingers, her rogues were off. The fighters and warriors shifted into wolf form as soon as the rogues ran off. The two alphas joined the battle, tearing and stopping the rogues like they were nothing. The two white-haired women stood, stuck in place, waiting for the right moment. They knew this battle would ultimately be down to the two of them. Neither would want any help from another wolf. They knew they had to fight one-on-one to prove themselves. This was the Warzone way. Alex scanned the area, catching a murky brown wolf clamping its sharp canines into one of her warriors. He was distracted by another rogue and couldn't see the murky one coming. Her eyes then moved to the west side. She found an auburn wolf that looked powerfully built. That was Butch. One of her best warriors, the one who was mated to the small, innocent girl. His hulking wolf tore the legs off of 2 rogues, causing his fur to be painted in red. He then began to zigzag through the trees, his wolf taking complete control, tearing through rogues fiercely and quickly. Conflict surrounded Alex, yet she still had not joined the fight. She stood in the middle with the white-haired woman, sizing each other up. Alex never let the sounds of the warriors or fighters interrupt her concentration. Her job was to take on her mother, the woman who gave birth to her and almost ended her life. Alex had many emotions towards her mother, but the one that stood out was her hatred. Hate filled her entire being as the hundreds of memories passed through her mind. Pictures of her dead best friend, her brother's lifeless body, the countless days she spent with no food. Alex lifted her left foot, then her right, and then her left again. It was now or never. The white-haired woman smirked as she saw her daughter approach her. She had been waiting for this for many years. As soon as Alex stood in front of her mother, fists and kicks were thrown at each other. The two women were evenly matched in strength and speed, but not in skill. Alex managed to get a jab to the white-haired woman's throat, causing her to lose her breath momentarily. Alex used this as an advantage to throw a punch at her head, but the white-haired woman barely missed the punch. The two women continued to scratch, bite, and jab, neither making much damage. They were both trained well. It showed in how they fought so aggressively in their human forms, but were only covered in some scratches, nothing major. Alex fought with her anger, while her mother fought with a desire for revenge. No real progress was being made until her mother unsheathed a dagger in her left hand. Once Alex saw the silver shine in the sunlight, she too revealed a dagger. Like mother, like daughter. The sound of conflict filled the air as the two women slashed at each other, trying to drive the dagger into each other's hearts. Alex wanted to remove her mother's heart, to see physical proof the cold woman even had one. Her mother wanted her daughter's heart so that it could be on display in a glass. Once she defeated her daughter, she would take out the elders and rule the wolf world. She wanted the Warzones to be feared and powerful again. Alex has to be gone for her plan to work. Dirt covered Alexandra's face, her body covered in sweat. She lands a kick to her mother's gut, causing her to stumble back. Her mother retaliates with a slash to her cheek. Suddenly, the sound of Rushford's cry rang. Alex was able to keep the death cries at bay, but not her mate's. She turns her head slightly, only to find her mate with 3 claw marks on his side. He was on the floor as a rogue approached him. Alex watched the scene unfold before her. Her wolf cried to go and help her mate, but her mind told her defeating Janet, her mother, was more critical. Janet's defeat would not only save Alex and her pack, but also save all packs around the world. The Warzone pack could not exist again. Alex stayed planted in her spot, unable to look away at the upcoming moment involving her mate. The rogue leapt from its spot, aiming for Rushford, only to be stopped instantly. Rushford acted quickly, tearing the rogue's throat out as it jumped into the air. A sigh of relief escaped Alex when she noticed almost all the rogues were defeated. Her gaze returns to her mother. She was seconds away from driving the dagger through her heart. Alex acted fast, raising her dagger, aiming for her mother's heart as well. The two white-haired women clashed. Alex watched as the thick, red blood flowed from the woman who had birthed her. Janet began to cough erratically, panic etched onto her face, knowing she was about to face her end. Janet looks at her daughter one last time. The demon's child and the demon. Together again. Janet closed her eyes and let death take her away. Alex looked across the field towards Rushford, mouthing, "I love you," then fell to her knees. The dagger was struck in the same place as her mother. However, her blood didn't gush, it gently flowed down like a red river. Rushford came running to his mate's side, holding her close, breathing in her sweet lavender scent. Alex has her mate's face in her hands. "You're safe," she smiled with her bloody teeth. The eye contact between the two didn't falter, not even after her heart stopped beating. The battle was won. When Alex held Rushford before she passed, only one thought had come to her. A warrior chooses to be a warrior, knowing they could fall. In that moment, Alex remembered that she, too, was a warrior. Epilogue. Alpha Rushford buried his mate 5 years ago. If not for Alpha Samadraka, he would have gone insane. After the defeat of his mate, Alpha Rushford returned to his cold demeanor and went on a swift pursuit against his enemies. Hundreds of bodies were scattered in the woods. Lone wolves often find the remains of other lone wolves. Alpha Rushford soon became a myth in the werewolf world. He was the monster of the woods. Alpha Rushford is in a meeting with Alpha Samadraka about the enemies. The argument is slowly turning heated, as Samadraka argues that Rushford needs to stop being so destructive. He pleads that Alex wouldn't have wanted that. The next second, Alpha Rushford has Samadraka's spine in his hands. I catch my breath. My heart is beating erratically. My head is covered in sweat. For the last 5 years, I have had visions of Alpha Rushford, the formidable figure who haunts my dreams. My Alpha says it's a great honor to have a seer in his pack, but it seems more like a curse to me. At a young age, I had visions of other packs and at times of these threats. The visions were always somehow connected to my life, but how did Alpha Rushford connect to me?